Hello, and welcome to Hooting Mandrills. I'm Sam.
I'm Jeremy.
And Lorwyn is finally here. And let's just get right into it, because there's a lot of stuff. Start with shocks. We finally got the finished cycle. Lorwyn got pushed back for Spider-Man, and so EOE had 5 of the shocks, so we had the unbalanced thing, and, you know, they are in non-ally, non-enemy color pairs, which isn't necessarily a bad thing in and of itself. You know, one, use the math term, biregular connected graph is much like another. Like, you know, each color has 2 other colors of thing, but because the cycle was unbalanced for so long, the all will be one rotated out of standard in the meantime, and so the allied fast lands rotated out, and so we've had some time where 3 of the color pairs, Azorius, Rakdos, and Selesnya, have had neither a shock nor a fast land, and this finally fixes that.
This is really important for standard. It's just like, you know, decks of those color identity are really hard to play just based around mana stuff alone, so it's good to at least bring the shocks into the equation, and yeah. Not much else to say about them, really. I mean, every multicolored deck, 3-color decks get better, you know, all sorts of fun stuff.
The lands are good, and you might have them from older formats, which might save you some wild cards on standard.
That is nice, yeah, to not have to pay for new lands that are only useful for standard.
All right, so moving on to some cards that are sort of individually pretty interesting. There's an Evoke Elemental cycle, an Elemental Incarnation cycle, in the pairs of the EOE shocks. The first of them, and I think this might be the best of them, although all of them are pretty good, but this one is, I think, pretty exciting. Emptiness is the Orzhov one. It's 4 and 2 white-black hybrid mana for a 3/5 at its hard cast rate. When it enters, if white-white was spent to cast it, return target creature card with mana value 3 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. And if black-black was spent to cast it, you put 3 -1/-1 counters on up to 1 target creature, and it evokes for 2 white-black hybrid mana. So as an evoke, it's sort of a modal sorcery speed removal spell or unearth, and that's sort of cool. Or if you hard cast it, you get both. That's sort of the joke for all of these incarnations.
And the there's less value of scamming all of these guys as well, because it's all on the cast.
Yes.
So correct. Like where something like Muldrifter or Grief, you scam it and you get the ability twice. These guys, you only get the ability on the cast.
That is correct. If you evoke and ephemerate this thing, or Not Dead After All, you only get 1 trigger and a large dingus. And so if you're trying to scam, which I am at all times, not you, dear listener, but in Magic, buy our boner pills, incidentally. They work. No. But, you know, it is less good with the classic evoke cheese. That's part of why I think this is one of the better ones, because in standard, you cast this for white-white, you reanimate a Pixie or a Sunpearl Kirin or an Aang, and you pick this thing up or airbend it away with the evoke trigger on the stack. That's pretty good. You just get your modal spell back, and you get to recast it, or you get it off in the airbend zone, and you can recast it for white-white or black-black, and both get the trigger and have it stick around.
Yeah, that's definitely one of the best synergies. I was kind of just thinking about this card in like the Bant Appa combo, you know, like you can get back Doc or something, you know, like you said, airbending, it's really good, and, you know, all that sort of stuff. But just like returning, you know, everything except Appa is a 3-mana creature in that deck or less, and, you know, removal is always good. So I don't know, it seems good to me.
That deck would have to be able to produce black somehow to get it as be able to play it as a removal spell.
Yeah, that might be difficult. That would, I mean, pretty hard. Yeah, you don't really want to be black and ban Appa, but
if we were,
you may only want it on that one mode. I mean, you would want it on both in ideal situations, but yeah, ban Appa not great for doing the second mode.
Yeah, I don't think this is good enough for older formats, really. If we were better at the whole content creation thing and every new set, I did a video of, here's the new cards that we're going to try out in flex slots of Orzhov Scam. This would be, a card that I would toy with or play around with. I'm not going to pretend I've never hardcast Solitude or hardcast Solitude off Dark Ritual even, but
Sure.
If you have both modes, it's pretty good. Both modes are okay. I think that the fact that it doesn't scam super well, the fact that the reanimation mode is white-white, so the reanimation mode being the slightly better one is white-white, and if you're casting it off Dark Ritual, you have 1 mana left over for less interesting stuff, and I think everything just sort of works out a little too awkwardly for this card in older formats, but I could be wrong. And I think it might be worth trying.
Yeah, I don't see any of these in older formats, but that's me, I guess. Someone else may have better ideas.
Speaking of a card that's a little sketch, Deceit is the Dimir version of the cycle. And look, I know Grief. Grief's a friend of mine. This card's not Grief. It might be the best of them to scam just because it's in black and is the biggest body when you do it.
Right,
I think
6/6 is not so bad. I mean, you're obviously kind of like competing with Quantum Riddler in the same spot in decks and standard. I don't know about older formats too. Quantum Riddler is a good card at all formats, but yeah, it's kind of hard to make this guy work. I mean, a 6/6 is a lot better than a lot of stuff, but a 4/6 flyer plus infinite card draw is pretty good to do.
Yeah, I mean, one thing about this card that I think will be good in standard is that you just, cast either of the modes on 2, and, even if you don't have the full combo on 4, you can just play Superior Spider-Man for blue, black, copy this thing, and get both modes.
That's cool.
And when you get both modes, you can bounce a thing and maybe just discard that thing if if there's not a more dangerous card in their hand. So that's kind of cool.
That is kind of fun, yeah. I mean, a lot of those decks are Sultai right now, but I'm not certain that they have to be.
Well, I think the other of this cycle in Sultai colors might be a reason that they would want to be. Wistfulness is, unlike Deceit, you can't Superior Spider-Man in such a way where you can get both triggers because you have to spend at least 1 black mana, so you can spend double blue or double green casting Superior Spider-Man to copy a Wistfulness, but not both. But this is both just a way to remove artifacts or enchantments like most hate pieces that you would be concerned about in that deck, and is also just a draw discard effect, which your graveyard deck is interested in. Is just a 6/5 body that when you do the thing, the 6/5s and 5/5s all come back when you bring her.
Yeah, right. So it's just, value to discard these cards anyway and let them go to the graveyard and then just bring them back, and they're big enough to matter in that situation. So that's cool. Yeah, it adds a little bit of utility to the Cavero Superior Spider-Man stuff. I hate that deck, but okay, you guys can get some new tools.
This is I think, good new tool for that deck, or maybe even something like Modern Living End, which is very similar, would be interested in having this is also sort of just a main deckable disenchant, which tends to be exciting for these sorts of graveyard decks.
Right, yeah. I mean, obviously you get to play the 3-cost enchantment that destroys a permanent. I forget what it's called, but
Awaken the Honored Dead.
Awaken the Honored Dead, yeah. That card's a little better than these, but it doesn't go into it mills you cards, but it doesn't directly go into your graveyard and add a body. So yeah, it's interesting. I think that you've probably figured out the best use of these cards in standard, though, is probably alongside Spider-Man.
Yeah, I mean,
right.
There sort of have to be, maybe if there's another graveyard deck, that would be interested in these sorts of things, but I couldn't think of one. I think that these bodies are the most exciting when you are living ending them.
I mean, most graveyard decks in standard that aren't Spider-Man decks are just lessons, so not super likely to be relevant in that situation.
Right. The next one is a really cool card that I fear will mostly be used for evil, at least in older formats. In in Standard, it's just sort of a good fair card, I think. Let's read it. Vibrance, 3 and 2 Gruul hybrid for a 4/4 elemental incarnation. Evokes for 2 hybrid red-green. So when it enters, if red-red was spent to cast it, deals 3 damage to any target. So sort of a clunky sorcery speed bolt, but a modal spell with when this creature enters, if green-green was spent to cast it, search your library for a land card, and that's any land card. Reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle. You gain 2 life. So Sylvan Scrying, basically. A Sylvan Scrying that gains life. So, in Standard, this is like a modal spell in your, whatever sort of mid-rangey Gruul deck, which maybe you get to play at some point, that is either smoothing out your draws and to fix out it, make sure you hit your land drops, or is a removal spell early, and then in the mid to late game, it's just a Flame Tongue Kavu that draws you, a man land or Bossing Say or something, which is pretty good. In older formats, you're probably playing this either in something like Amulet Titan, where this is a pretty good way to kill Magus of the Moon, then 2 red mana. 2 of those red mana that you just gave me, and this is Summoner's Pactable. It's a Sylvan Scrying effect that finds whatever weird toolbox land, and when all your lands are mountains because of Magus of the Moon, this fixes that problem by tapping 2 of those mountains.
That's kind of fun.
I mean, is it though?
I mean, not in Lotus Bloom. You deserve nothing. No, but
it does.
Like being able to kill,
I'm glad.
Leave my Blood Moon alone. I've stuck it. You deserve to suffer. No. But,
yeah, if
you're getting Blood Moon and you play a red-green deck already, then it's sort of like it's not the best Blood Moon that's ever happened, likely anyway.
I do kind of think that most of the people who get Blood Mooned
deserve it.
Certainly, Amulet Titan players do, but this is an extra card in their toolbox. Something like Green Devotion and Pioneer or Historic might be interested in this card, especially the Green Devotion versions in Historic that are also playing Battlecrier combo, because they can sort of cast the red side. These Lotus Fieldy decks, they'd have to be more green than the current Historic builds, but, there are many good green lands cards that are legal in, formats from Pioneer on back that would allow you to feel pretty okay about playing a green Sylvan Scrying with some other upside.
The other thing about all of them, except for Emptiness, is not big enough, and also Catharsis is not big enough once we get to that, although it could make you a creature, but is that you can use these and crew a World Wagon, or especially Vibrance is kind of decent with World Wagon, where you can get more lands and stuff, or remove something that was going to block your World Wagon or something. It's not the best, but at least you get some extra value beyond just dealing 3 damage for 2, or
that's true. That's the way that you quote unquote scam these in Standard, or at least this one, and that seems like a pretty reasonable thing to be doing. You get a removal spell or a Sylvan Scrying, and you also get to make a big World Wagon attack. That's not bad.
Yeah, and I mean, there's a lot of these Might Form Harmonizer, win on turn 3 type decks around the World Wagon right now anyway. So it seems kind of like that might be a good thing, clear the way or grab a land, decent thing to do with it.
Yeah. I
right,
really do like this card. I just really hate every deck that it goes in the formats that I play most often.
No, I'm with you. I support the hatred of anyone trying to do things with Lotus Field. That's no fun for anybody. I typically don't really like the solitary type decks in general, but what can you do? Should we talk about Catharsis?
Sure.
4/2 hybrid Boros. If it's double white, obviously the Evoke is the hybrid Boros too. It's a 3/4 elemental incarnation. The double white is you get 2 Kithkin creature tokens, and the double red is creatures you control get +1/+1 and gain haste until the end of the turn. So kind of like an Immodane's Recruiter vibe type thing.
Yeah.
It's cool. I mean, you certainly aren't super mad about spending 2 white to make 2 Kithkins, and I don't know if Kithkins can be Naya, but probably not. I mean, if there were Kithkins, it definitely could be, because the lands are super good. You can play like 16 Kithkin lands, some shit. I guess with starting towns, it's 6. You can all the new creature types in this set. You can play 16 rainbow lands, so that's pretty decent. But
yeah,
I guess one of those lands does work for both Kithkins and your Catharsis, but I don't know that this is really a Kithkin card. I mean, it feels like one, but
yeah, I mean, I guess if the Kithkin deck ends up wanting an Imidane's Recruiter, then it is starting to get interested in playing.
Every creature deck wants it. Wants an Imidane's Recruiter, right? I don't know.
I mean, I guess I could. Yeah, but like if there's a deck, I could definitely see there being a deck that puts a whole bunch of crud on board and is happier playing the red side of this as a finisher than Imidane's Recruiter for whatever reason. Maybe it
could just be a Boros tokens deck,
yeah,
too,
or maybe you want to play
Frontline
both.
Rush and all sorts of other token enablers.
Yeah, maybe you play both, or maybe you think this version is better flood insurance than Imidane's Recruiter, where just hard casting this for 6, you get effectively 2 2/2s and a 4/5 with haste coming in. That's not that bad. Maybe you're interested in this for like mana value or discover reasons. Beans is gone, but some versions of Domain and Standard used to play Recruiter, and I assume if you're trying to do some sort of beansy thing in Pioneer that like feels like it can just win the game by getting a Recruiter effect, you would much rather have this thing because it beans. One of my sort of pet ideas that has never really worked out is historic rhinos, where you play these Cascade compliant token producers that you can then put a Tali's Favor on. This is sort of a better version than that might also just let you crash in and kill with your rhinos with the whack effect.
This is kind of interesting for rhinos. I could see that. I mean, you definitely want to be able to get your rhinos going and not die to Supreme Verdict or whatever. So, like, I could see getting some rhinos out there and then wanting to give them +1 in haste for pretty cheap. And also, it does something, if you just need to make some 1/1s to stall out or to put in a Tali's Favor or whatever you need to do. Yeah, I could see that.
It's a cool card.
I like this one. Yeah, I like it.
I've heard people say that this is the worst of the cycle. It might be, but I think the cycle is all pretty good.
Well, I mean, just because creatures are horrible doesn't mean that, like, yeah, obviously doing other stuff that isn't creature based is always going to be stronger in today's game, but I like it.
All right. Sort of in the vein of talking about evoke elementals, here's another card that am I really playing this in Scam in an old format? Is it staying? It's tough. At 2 mana is as
you have Ephemerate in old format.
Yes, it is.
No.
Yeah, the Ephemerate is very good. This 2 mana is literally twice as much as 1, and this thing is just less value than the rebound on Ephemerate usually. But Rhys the Evermore, the 1 mana 2/2 with flash that he flashes in, he gives a thing persist. So he's sort of a bad scam spell on a body, and then he can, for 1 white and tapping him, you can remove any number of counters from target creature you control. So you can strip off this 1/1 counter or other -1/-1 counters from other things in this set.
There are quite a few, like, I don't know if this is actually a deck or not, but like there's quite a few cards in the set that like give you things when you take off counters. So I wonder if like in some kind of like you play a bunch of those cards, and like there's obviously like the ones that like enter with 6 minus counters or whatever, like these crazy amounts of counters. You could do something with that and gain, you gain some when you remove and you could be re-blighting with it. The remove counters isn't nothing. I think that like obviously the ETB is what makes a card good, but like the other ability is usable. You can remove some counters most effectively, not just the one persist trigger, that you're trying to do.
Yeah, I think this card certainly does things.
I think this one's going to be a standard player.
Yeah, like I said, it's a overcosted scam spell, but it comes on a body, which is quite plausibly worth it. And
the activated ability isn't completely useless,
Yeah.
There's going to be a lot of -1/-1 counters available, a lot of self-blighting and stuff like that.
Here's kind of a cute one. Abigale, Eloquent First Year. 2 Orzhov hybrid mana for a 1/1 bird bard with flying first strike and lifelink. And when she enters, up to 1 other target creature loses all abilities. Put a flying counter, a first strike counter, and a lifelink counter on that creature. So, if you play a giant idiot with downside and then play this thing, you now have a giant idiot with upside. Lupine prototype, Death's Shadow. In Standard, there's Mono Sentry, Ancient One, Rock Curse Rakshasa, a few others, but these sort of big doofer creatures. There's also that guy, Zoo Iflit from Osteo Harmonist from Edge of Eternities, which sort of does the same thing, so you can maybe justify building a deck around this. I don't know.
They also made all those really horrible back in Tarkir, they're all vanilla creatures. But
the Aether Drift ones.
Aether Drift, sorry, yeah. The Aether Drift, they've got all these no abilities but good stats, so you could just, maybe find something in there. Those aren't very good, any of them, but...
Yeah, I've always kind of liked the red one, and there is a...
Is that a 4/1, or what?
Yeah, it's a 4/1 for 2. So, definitely a card that gets better if you give it first strike. Yeah, and then there's the Hazoret also from Aether Drift, which is sort of the same deal.
Oh, that's kind of good. Yeah.
He will lose Indestructible, but he will lose Indestructible and Haste, although you're probably not playing him and then this. And he probably already has lost Summoning Sickness by the time this is coming down.
Have to be at least 2 colors, which is fine, but...
Yeah, so maybe there's a Rakdos. Maybe there's a Rakdos version. Maybe there's a Dimir version of that.
There is that. What happens if you do it to the Death Shadow vehicle? Is it no longer returning to a vehicle? It lost all abilities.
I think it will return to being
a vehicle.
Return because of how crew works, and then it will have lost the ability to crew, which is a problem for you.
Okay, that's kind of what I was thinking. Right, so that's not good. But yeah, it's an interesting card. I don't think it's super great, and obviously by taking away all the abilities, it's not great in an Aragorn type situation.
Yes, but unfortunately my longtime pet card, Aragorn Company Leader, does not work well with this card because he will not be able to redistribute the counters because he will have lost all abilities.
Sad.
Yes.
All right. Yeah, okay. Here's one of those cards I was talking about before, Moonshadow. It's a 1-cost 7/7 elemental with Menace. This creature enters with 6 -1/-1 counters, so it's really a 1/1. Whenever 1 or more permanent cards are put into your graveyard from anywhere while this creature has a -1/-1 counter on it, remove a -1/-1 counter from this creature.
So
1 or more, so your Overlord is only going to get you 1 -1/-1 removed, or your...
That is correct. If you curve this into Overlord of the Baelmerk, it is a 2/2, not a probably 5/5, or probably 4/4. You expect to hit 3 permanents on an Overlord. There are a lot of things that do trigger this. Cracking fetch lands, sacking things dying in general. It is also just a cheap thing that on the stack has 7 power, so it's kind of interesting with something like Gwenna Eyes of Gaia, which just rotated out of Standard, but in Pioneer, that's a pretty reasonable quality card that is also, once you're going, just a ritual. That's kind of cool. Monstrous Vortex is MH3, and this thing will discover 1, not 0, so you can't use this to cascade into rhinos. I guess you kind of sort of can.
You can roll the dice, but you don't really want to play Moonshadow.
But you can spin this into another one into rhinos. and that would be kind of cool. I don't know how good it would be, but it's neat.
And you know, like a Rhys to be able to, you know, we were just talking about it, you take all the counters off of this guy, and then you've got a 7/7 menace. Pretty big.
Yeah. There's also Hapatra's Mark, which is like a snakeskin veil that also just strips all the counters off this thing. I think this card is
Pioneer. That's kind of interesting too.
Yeah, I think this card is good, and good going back to relatively old formats. The big
Elemental
question
is not an irrelevant type either.
Yeah, I think the big question in Fetchland formats is how does this thing scaling compare to Nethergoyf? Nethergoyf sort of also gets bigger with the first Fetchland and gets bigger as you cast instant and sorcery spells, which this does not generally, unless you are also sacrificing things as a result of using those instant and sorcery spells. So if you're looking for just a creature that grows fast for 1 black, how does this compare? And I'm not sure I know the answer. I think it might depend on the deck. It also might depend
on... because you're also... Your Malevolent Rumble doesn't work either. It puts
Malevolent Rumble...
It does itself, but not the spawn.
Correct, yes.
So you get one trigger off your Malevolent Rumble.
Will probably grow, and will almost certainly grow a Nethergoyf more than it will grow this thing.
So if you Priz Vista into Malevolent Rumble, that's still only a 3/3 menace.
Yes,
so,
that is
correct.
It's
a cool card. I'm not sure that it's better than Nethergoyf.
Yeah, and then you also have to weigh the escape, which is pretty good against Menace, and how much does Menace matter? I think you kind of have to play with the card. I think the power level is definitely there, going
it's a powerful card,
quite a long way, but I don't know how good it is until
if you can develop a deck with other synergy, I think especially, then it's going to be fine. But like you're saying, Nethergoyf is its natural competition. And maybe you could run both. I mean, I don't know. Maybe you're just trying to have low cost creatures that beat, and then you can have 8 Nethergoyfs essentially. That's not bad.
I think this is bigger and meaner. The other black 1-drops that compete for that slot, this is, I think, definitely better than Stalactite Stalker. I think it's probably, at least, if not better than Cecil, a more aggressive card that hits harder, faster, and also isn't killing you at the same time. So
yes,
it has real competition, but it also has real potential, and I think can compete in the right deck for those sorts of slots.
Yeah, it's definitely playable. I like it. Let's take a look at...
Yeah, here's another one that I think is playable back into very old formats.
Yep. So JED's World Championship winning card, Formidable Speaker, 2 and a green, Elf Druid, 2/4. When this creature enters, you may discard a card. If you do, search your library for a creature card, reveal it, put it into your hand, and shuffle. And then it has a 1 and a tap, untap another target permanent. So obviously, just like in Elves, you get to, untap your Archdruid or whatever, Titania, whatever you've got. But in other things, you've got up here Ancient Tomb and the One Ring, powerful things to untap.
I mean, also this casts off Ancient Tomb. It costs 2 and
right. So on turn 2, or Elvish Spirit Guide's still not in.
Elvish Spirit Guide isn't, but Chrome Mox is. So you could theoretically Chrome Mox
Speaker, get whatever creature you want.
Speaker, bin something from your hand and search up whatever. The One Ring also plays well with Ancient Tomb. I don't know that this is a timeless staple right away, but all it really takes is for there to be an Ancient Tomb One Ring deck that is green and is sort of interested in creature tutoring. I put Vampire Hexmage on here because, Depths could be a deck like that the current Depths builds don't like Hexmage that much, but, if it's just one and you can tutor it up sometimes, that seems maybe fine. They've fallen off because they kind of get bullied by Depths and Entomb, but there was a stretch where black midrange splashed into Golgari for Wary Zone Guard to loop Strip Mine, and that was an Ancient Tomb One Ring deck that would have been interested in this effect because it played so much mana that it drew a lot of air a lot of the time. This does powerful things going back to like old formats. It also is a
right. It might
discard
fit in
outlet
like your Entomb deck, right? Like like your Entomb Reanimate deck, where you discard something, reanimate it. Seems good.
Yeah, I mean, and in Standard, the most powerful reanimation spell happens to itself be a creature. So play this on 3, discard something that you probably wanted in the graveyard anyway, find Superior Spider-Man.
Yeah, you discard your bringer, get your Spider-Man next turn, win the game, yeah. Seems good. I'm sure that it has other applications just in elf decks and other things. You can get your Crater Hoof, you can get whatever, get your Ouroboros. But yeah, cool card. I like it.
It also, untapped target permanent. Like, there are a lot of dorks that tap for 2 in Standard right now because of Badger Mold. Like, this thing.
They all do, yeah.
Yeah, they all do. This thing could end up being mana positive just playing with those.
Yeah. It's good. I mean, it's definitely powerful, and it not dying to a lot of removal seems good. It being a 4 toughness creature means that you have to Iros demonstration it or whatever if you wanna kill it.
2/4 is not an irrelevant body at all.
All right, should we talk about Biterbloom Bearer? 2 black, fairy rogue, 1/1, flash flying. At the beginning of your upkeep, you lose 1 life and create a 1/1 blue and black fairy creature token with flying. So, I mean, I kind of think part of what makes Bitter Blossom a reasonable card for so long is that it wasn't a creature. Harder to remove. I mean, obviously, people need to have enchantment artifact removal in their decks in today's Standard, but you also need to have creature removal with Badger Mole being so prevalent. I do think it's a good card. I don't have anything wrong with what the card does. I do think its toughness is a little bad.
Yeah.
Dying to fire magic or, the other side of Iro's demonstration is pretty bad place to be right now. But I do like what it does. I like making the fairies. Like, I like Bitter Blossom, don't get me wrong, but I just think it's going to have a tough time in today's Standard.
Yeah, I almost don't look at this as a Bitter Blossom. I almost look at it as an Orcish Bowmaster that shoots you instead of your opponent.
That's interesting, yeah.
But, if it sticks around, it does poop out more tokens. But, yeah, I don't think it's gonna. I don't think it's gonna be dominating Standard the way Bitter Blossom was. I think
I don't even know that it's playable, unfortunately. Yeah.
Yeah, I think maybe if there's a Flash Fairies deck that it could be good. Maybe if it produces material for like sack decks or like some sort of go wide convoke strategy.
Obsessive Pursuit. Yeah, I mean it is good with Obsessive Pursuit for sure. But
yeah,
that's
it produces flying bodies and sack fodder, which are 2 things that Obsessive Pursuit is interested in.
But yeah, I think it's a tough sell for me for this card to be playable in today's game. I do like it though. Should we move on to the Ashling card?
Sure.
Okay, so we have Ashling Rekindled, which is the castable side for 1 and a red, legendary elemental sorcerer 1/3. Whenever this creature enters or transforms into Ashling Rekindled, you may discard a card if you do draw a card. At the beginning of your first main phase, you may pay 1 blue if you do transform into Ashling Rimebound, which is a 1/3 blue creature, elemental wizard. Whenever this creature transforms into Ashling Rimebound, and at the beginning of your first main phase, add 2 mana of any color. Spend this mana only to cast spells with mana 4 or greater. At the beginning of your first main phase, you may pay red and transform it into the other one. So, yeah, I don't know. This card, there's so many better cards than this in Standard once again, but yeah, if you need a little mana and you're not in green...
Yeah, if you're just trying to power out 4 drops, it's worse than Badger. I don't hate this card in, like, the Izzet looting deck. it just ETB loots, so it triggers your Tiger Seals or your Marauding Makos or whatever you're playing, and then the mana from the backside does at least cast Quantum Riddler. So, if you flip it over, you make 2 mana, you can at least Warp Riddler with that mana and get a little bit of mana advantage that way, and maybe flip it back and get your looting effects going. It is legendary.
At least the backside, the Rimebound, you don't have to keep transforming into... You can just keep doing the mana thing.
Yes, that is correct. So, if you flip it over, you don't have to flip it back. You flip it back if rummaging for 1 mana is worth it for you.
It just seems worse than Artist Talent to me. If you're in the creature version, where the draw discard is a lot more important. But in the Tiger Seal version, the only card above 4 mana is Quantum Riddler in the whole deck. You're pretty much just trying to play, Frostcliff Siege and creatures, and it's worse than FOMO. It's worse than a lot of cards in that deck. Yeah, so I don't really see it. But.
So I think I'm a little higher on it in that deck, but I would also be pretty surprised if the number that they ended up playing was more than 1.
It might be better than a Duelist of the Mind, I guess, but that card's pretty cracked in that deck too. So you can't take out Duelist, you can't take out FOMO, you can't take out Riddler. I don't know. That deck's pretty solid, so you maybe could play 1 in there and be a little spicy. I could see that.
Yeah, I think if you are ever in danger of legend ruling yourself with it, that second copy is just unplayable, but you play it, you flip it over at some point, you use the mana that it produces to warp a Riddler, and then you have the option to flip it back to get your looting stuff going and make your deck function, is maybe worth it.
Maybe you just stick it on the Rimebound side, and then because it's obviously you're playing your Riddler turn 3.
That's true. The Riddler is sort of 8 cards,
to
not
get
4.
a 5 card. So that seems like it's most, if you transform it, scam a Riddler on turn 3, something like that. That seems to be probably the way to play this card if you're going to play 1. And like you said, it can't be more than 1. There's so many better cards in that deck. But it does stick to the theme of not dying to shocks in that deck. So that's at least one solace. All right. Up next, we have Shadow Urchin for 2 and a Rakdos hybrid for an oof 3/4. Whenever this creature attacks, blight 1. And so we've talked about blight somewhere, but it's just put a -1/-1 counter on a creature you control. Whenever a creature you control with 1 or more counters on it dies, exile that many cards from the top of your library. Until your next end step, you may play those cards. So this gives you some advantage to blighting and having things die with counters on them. It could be other things too, obviously. It doesn't have to just be from the blighting. But there is that goblin 3/2 that blights every turn and makes a treasure token. So maybe in some kind of sack deck around that sort of premise, you could play this card.
Yeah, there are also the saga creatures in Standard. Unfortunately, the curve of Summon Brunhilde into this is almost good, but isn't quite. If it were until the end of your next turn, it would be great. But if you just play Brunhilde on 2, play this thing on 3, give it haste, swing, and blight the Brunhilde, you do exile 3 cards, but you do not have mana to cast them, which is not great.
Non-bow, yeah.
But, your saga creatures do die, and
could
do
have
die naturally.
a 1-drop to blight or something. Greedy Freebooter or something. Who knows?
Yeah, there's 9 Lives Familiar who enters with 8 counters on him and comes back when he dies in Foundations. That's kind of cool. So
yeah, you can keep doing that. That's expensive for Standard.
Yes, it is.
If you were under a Coco or something, maybe that could be cute, but...
Yeah, a lot of these involve multiple 3-drops. Older formats, Voldaren Thrillseeker is just a pretty good pioneer card that causes creatures with 1/1 counters on them to die, or with +1/+1 counter, but it just cares about counters, so that's not horrible. If you do a fair Thrillseeker, you can pop it on your end step. You'll be able to have 3 cards available to you next turn. That's possibly okay as a thing that you could be doing.
A Thrillseeker seems good with this. In older formats, you obviously have stuff like Pia and other stuff to benefit off of playing stuff out of exile or something like that. I don't know.
I think this card's cool. I don't know how good it really is, but
seems a little bit difficult. I mean, like I said in the previous video, any card that costs 3 mana in standard is pretty hard, so it's got to be pretty good. You're trying to win the game fast. All right, let's take a look at the next one. This card will be a player. It's Iron Shield Elf. Iron Shield Shelf. Iron Shield Elf. For 1 and a black, it's a 3/1. It's kind of like Guardian of New Benalia. Discard a card. This creature gains indestructible until the end of the turn. Tap it. So, you know, good with Monument, good with Mayhem, good with Madness, good with, you know.
Yeah, I mean, Pioneer Greasefang still plays Seasoned Hollowblade, and, like, this card is basically just Seasoned Hollowblade, like, black, and you have to be black-white anyway to play Greasefang, but black is a better color, largely, in Pioneer.
Thoughtseize, Fatal Push.
Yeah, you get to be a little bit more on the Thoughtseize Fatal Push side of your deck. You know, it's a way to trigger
Monument on your opponent's turn.
Yeah, triggers Monument on your opponent's turn, triggers... It's a discard outlet for the, like, Mayhem stuff that's in Standard now. There's also the vehicle that makes zombies when you discard cards. That's in black, so having a black discard outlet is okay with that. It's like a role player card, but it's a good one.
Yeah, I mean, like... The problem with, like, overly, like, graveyard stuff, like playing this in some kind of, like, I think the black card that returns 3 CMC or less rotated, or is that one still around?
That was, like, No One Left Behind, right? I think that was Brothers War.
Okay, I believe you. You can't do Oculus stuff without being 3 colors, which sucks. And Oculus is in a bad position right now due to the necessity of graveyard hate due to the Lessons / Spider-Man Cavero type nonsense. But this card is going to be in Standard for 3 years, so maybe at some point along that time we'll get to play some silliness with it. All right, should we move on to Eirdu, Carrier of the Dawn, 3/2 white, Elemental God Legend, 5/5, flying lifelink, creature spells you cast have Convoke, and at the beginning of your first main phase, you can pay a black to transform Eirdu, and it becomes Isilu, Carrier of Twilight, which is another 5/5 Elemental God with flying lifelink. Each other non-token creature you control has Persist. At the beginning, you can pay white and transform it back. So you can either have Convoke or Persist for non-tokens. It seems cool. It does cost 5 mana. Itself does not have Convoke. So
correct.
That makes it hard to cast. But yeah, it's certainly cool. You could go off if you ever get to resolve it. You could certainly be going off and doing all sorts of crazy stuff.
Yeah, or like, I mean, I don't know how much you can be like going off with, but like the turn you cast it, you might be able to cast something else because of Convoke, which makes it at least a little better, I think, in the sorts of decks that would be interested in getting access to Convoke or Persist. It's like not just you're playing a giant idiot in those decks that is like completely off plan. If you get to around a turn cycle, giving all your stuff Persist is quite powerful.
Yeah, I mean, the problem with 5 mana creatures is they're really only supposed to be control finishers, and this is not a good control finisher type card. It has to do with your creatures. So I think it's kind of a rough sell for me to actually play this in a deck, but it's cool. I'm sure that Commander players will love it.
Yeah, I think I'm sort of in the same place, but it is the sort of thing that I would want to be good, and that in a smaller, less powerful Standard would be very good, but I'm sort of with you on that.
Yeah,
one.
I mean, I don't know.
I think we're cooking a little too hard.
That's
I think we're cooking a little
be.
too hard if you try to build around this thing.
5 drops. Yeah, the 5-drop kind of has to read win the game last turn. All right, so next up we have Twilight Diviner for 2 and a black. It's an Elf Cleric 3/3. When it enters, surveil 2. Whenever 1 or more creatures you control enter, if they entered or were cast from a graveyard, create a token that's a copy of one of them. This ability triggers only once each turn. So
this card is very weird. It's very cool, but it's very weird, and I'm not sure what to do with it.
You can't even like helping hand this thing and copy itself because it's one or more other.
Yeah, if it does not copy itself when it gets rezzed by a helping hand, or I guess emptiness, or like, you know, some sort of unearth effect. The thing that is so weird about this card to me is that so many modern day reanimation targets are legendary. So like you can maybe get an ETB trigger twice if you like play this thing and then zombify or whatever.
Atraxa, yeah, but then like
you will in fact only get one Atraxa, and you will also.
How many cards do you need?
Maybe you can sort of get cutesy with that, and if you're doing Sandman things, you return the Sandman and the land, you make a copy. The copy is not tapped, and then you just legend rule away the real ones, so you can keep doing that. Is that good? It seems slow. And like
this card costs 3 mana. What are you doing? Yeah, like
you can get copies of Bloodghast. Is a token copy of a Bloodghast good?
And like the one reanimator deck that you actually want to play, it had Nombos with Spider-Man, so like because that isn't coming in from the graveyard, it's copying something in the graveyard. So
I mean, lots of things are entering from the graveyard.
I mean, maybe if it's in your graveyard already, but like, do you really need something additionally?
Do you really need twice as
trigger?
much in the Superior Spider-Man deck? And like a token copy of a Bloodghast is basically just a decayed zombie, right? Like it can't block and it can't block and it just goes away when it dies. So like, I don't know. This card's very cool. I have no idea what to do with it.
Right. Like it's sick if you get a Oculus, right? Like if you bring back an Oculus off a helping hand, 2 Oculuses is better than 1. That's like a undeniable clock. They might be able to remove 1, but you know, with the removal that we have, unless they have, you know, 2 of the exiling lessons one and you haven't dealt with any of their graveyard or something.
Both Oculuses are probably putting a manifest into play, which is also speeding up the clock considerably. That's kind of real. It's rough and maybe you can just play Esper Oculus and, you know.
It has to be, right? Because there's no black 1 mana or 2. Yeah, I mean, and then you get the emptiness as well.
Yeah, like maybe like black Esper Oculus with emptiness doing some of the like Aang scamming stuff. Maybe that's.
Oh, maybe you can.
Maybe that's
bring back an
maybe
Aang.
That's good.
Two Aangs. I don't know. Is 2 Aangs any good? I mean, like 2 Aang triggers is good, like in the Allies deck where you're playing, but you only get to keep 1 Aang.
Right. Well, I mean, I meant Aang more with emptiness than with this thing, but.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, but if
Aang as a way that you can scam emptiness, like make emptiness as one of your like Oculus reanimation spells better.
It feels really slow though. It
feels slow and clunky and reliant on the graveyard in a format where there is an existing graveyard deck that people have to hate on.
2, in fact, yeah.
I do want to like this card, and I want to like many of these like tricksy things, but we shall see.
I think if this was a 2/2 for 2, maybe even Surveil 1, it would be so much more playable.
Sure. It's
like things just can't cost 3 mana ever again. You know, they have to be Abhorrent Oculus at level to be 3 mana cards. You know, like we can't play
Fable
3 mana
cards.
Breaker
at least.
Fable would be playable, I think. You might have to side it out a lot of games where you're going fast, but yeah, Fable's a very good card.
Necropotence.
Okay, Necropotence would be good in Standard. Okay, we could add Necropotence to Standard and it would be playable. I agree. All right. Anyway, let's talk about a Hexing Squelcher. It's a Goblin Sorcerer 2/2 for 1 and a red with ward, pay 2 life. Spells you control can't be countered. Other creatures you control have ward, pay 2 life. So Sam has put the "This is your brain on EDH" meme onto the screen, and we have to agree, you know, countering stuff is not that good of a strategy, although a lot of people are trying, you know, Jeskai or Jeskai Black type decks. decks throughout Standard right now. So this could be an okay sideboard card, but I don't really think you need it in your main deck.
I think it's a sort of medium sideboard card.
I think it helps the mono red deck out a little bit. It's also punishing them for killing any of your dudes. So I don't know. I think it's better than in constructed than people might think.
Probably playable, but
it shouldn't be like
you shouldn't be thinking of it as the end of the world. But I think the people who are like, this is a mistake, they should not have like, shut up.
Yeah, maybe for your CEDH, it might be a mistake, but guess what? The rest of us don't care about your format. But yeah, it's cool.
I care about many formats that are like also very weird and very powerful, like CEDH, but this isn't good in those.
Right.
It'll have a place. It might have a place going back to some pretty old formats. But
it might be different in like a you can't daze or force of will or do anything again. If this lands, that's pretty serious against you in some ways, potentially in an older format maybe. But it's a little rough.
I think that it is probably the most overrated card of the set, and like even in those formats, I think it is a sideboard card, role player, wishboard card, role player more so than like this is a
4 of main deck staple. Yeah, I like the art though.
It's
cool
cute.
card.
I like the art, like the name.
Yeah, the name's sick too. This next card completely unplayable. I don't know, maybe I'm cooked, but it's Ajani, Outland, Chaperone for 1 white for 3 Planeswalker. The +1 ability is create 1 white Kith King creature. The -2 is deal 4 to a tapped creature. What the fuck? And then -8, look at the top X cards of your library, where X is your life total. You may put any number of non-land permanent cards with mana value 3 or less from among them onto the battlefield, then shuffle. So like, I guess you're like trying to make synergy with United Battlefront here, but I have to, for 5 turns, on my 6th turn of having this fucking thing, I can finally ultimate it. Not happening. This card sucks, unplayable, should not have even printed it. Like, you should have just printed Oko. There's no reason for this card to exist at all.
So, I don't think this card's great. I think of it sort of as a white Liliana of the Veil. It's sort of more of a white Liliana of the Veil than the actual white Liliana that shows up at the end of the story. Spoilers, I guess. So it's a like bad, overcosted removal spell up front, but like if it gets to come down and kill a thing and like sit around plussing, you're kind of happy about it. Does it get to do that? I am skeptical. Like,
its -2 is like a limited card that you don't even want to draft. Like, I don't know. Like, did
that's
4
also
damage
true
to a tapped creature.
That is also true of Liliana of the Veil, though, right? Like, her -2. Her -2 is a 3 mana sorcery speed edict.
Edict is so much better than this.
Than killing a tapped creature at sorcery speed. I do agree. This plus is asymmetrical. Like, and Lily was played in Standard when she was reprinted into it. She wasn't like a format defining card.
No.
And so, I am mostly with you. Ajani is bad again. Nature is healing, but
when was the last? I'm sorry. Yeah, I always forget about your Modern Horizons cards that aren't common. Ajani being bad again is good if you play Modern Horizons cards. Yeah, I agree. But yeah, this card I think utterly unplayable. If I United Battlefront and this was one of my hits, I would be fucking pissed. So I just wouldn't put it in my deck. But yeah, all right. On the other hand, if I United Battlefronted into this, I would also be pissed because this card isn't any good in a United Battlefront deck. Oko Lorwyn Liege. He's a 2 and a blue Planeswalker, 3 Planeswalker points, and its +2 is up to 1 target creature gains all creature types, and its +1 is target creature gets -2/-0 until your next turn, and at the beginning of your first main phase, you can pay green and flip it into Shadowmoor Scion Oko, which has all minus abilities, and you can pay blue and switch it back at your main phase. The first one is mill 3 cards. You may put a permanent card from among them into your hand. The -3 is make a 3/3 green elk, and the -6 is cards. Choose a creature type. You get an emblem with creatures you control of the chosen type get +3/+3 and have vigilance and hexproof. So I don't know. I just don't know what kind of deck you would even possibly want to play this in. Maybe a commander deck, I guess.
I don't know either. And that's, why, at least at the time of recording, there's nothing else on this slide. Like,
we're going to break it in the next 2 minutes here. Unlikely.
I mean, the thing about this that is sort of reminiscent of original Oko is that it is cheap for a Planeswalker and does plus really high. It, just goes to, comes down to either goes to 4 and tells you that you can't really attack it, or goes to 5. And it is probably surviving, it is probably sticking around and doing stuff. Is any of that stuff good enough? Is flipping it over and making 2 Elks good? Making 2 Elks or drawing cards?
What creature deck wants to just stick around with a Planeswalker? It does. I don't know. It's so hard to play this card well, I think. I do see what you're saying, that it scales up fast. But even the minus, the -3 is really hard. You can do that a single time off of this once it's transformed.
Yeah, I mean, if you get to just +2 unimpeded and then
you can get to the 6
and then flip, then make Elks, then draw, then flip back. I don't know. It's rough. I don't know if the plus,
I don't know. Even in the perfect scenario where it just sticks around, just doesn't seem very good. The thing I can think of is maybe in you play Tender Wild Guide in your Sliver Hive Pool deck, just to help you ramp and fix your colors or something. Then you could turn it into a Sliver real quick.
So why Tender Wild Guide in specific?
Or not Tender Wild Guide. I mean the Great Divide Guide. My bad. Other guide. Just to fix your mana, and any of your changelings are also dorks if you play Great Divide Guide. So if you're playing this crazy Sliver deck that I want to be real but is not at all.
Okay. Yeah,
this card somehow makes it in there,
if you are
and it can turn your Great Divide Guide into a Sliver as well. So
yeah, I mean,
that's the best I can come up
make
with. I'm sorry. The card's bad.
Into a changeling if you're that is probably
if you're ramping.
If you're Llanowar Elves into this thing, you have a Llanowar Elves that's a changeling that, maybe they'll kill or maybe they don't, but if they don't, might do something.
That's as deep. That's all I can come up with. I don't know. Do you have any way to play this card?
No,
I mean the +1's not horrible either, but they don't care about their grand.
Yeah, I mean, I think
they don't care about their otter token being minus.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe I do sort of feel similarly to you that Standard is probably too linear, and for this thing to really be good, it's just too incremental of value, and Standard isn't really about that these days. But
right, I mean, I said it in the other video, but I don't think this card should cost 2. Don't tell me that I said that, but it just kind of seems like all the cards in this set cost 1 extra from where they would be actually playable, but a lot of them are just too slow to Standard is very specific about what we want and what we need to play in a Standard deck. Unfortunately, it's very strict about what you can do. But I just don't know how you possibly that. It's just the +2 doesn't do anything in any deck except a Sliver deck. There's nothing. I mean, maybe there's. I can't think of another situation. Maybe you turn something into an ally so that you can use the Great Divide Guide. But I don't know. It just seems bad.
Yeah, it's kind of rough, and yeah, if there is something that works here, it involves mana dorks somehow and involves changeling being relevant somehow, but I think this card is kind of a tough sell. Alright, so next up, some other sorts of non-creatures. There's a cycle of kindred commands in this set, one for each of the 5 big types that it focuses on. Not one for fairies, but for elementals, kithkin, elves, merfolk, and
goblins.
Goblins. Yeah, there you go. And I think the thing I dislike most about these cards is that
They cost 1,000,000 mana.
well, no. The thing that I dislike most about these cards is that I look at them and it means that whoever at Wizards of the Coast was responsible for Kozilek's command has convinced them that it was a great triumph of design and not something that should have resulted in significant professional consequences. The thing I dislike the second most about them is that they all cost 1,000,000 mana. Unlike Kozilek's command, none of these cards are particularly busted. I think this one's okay. Ashling's command, the elemental one, it costs 5 mana, but if it's a small wrath with a decent amount of upside for 5 mana, that's probably okay. And all the modes are good. I'll just read them off. Choose 2. Create a token that's a copy of an elemental you control. Target player draws 2 cards. Ashling's command deals 2 damage to each creature target player controls. And target player creates 2 treasure tokens. For 5 mana. 3 red and a blue.
So, right, they all copy one of their kindred, all of these commands, and then they do some other stuff. So I guess ideally you would always want to be playing them in it's kind of interesting that they add kindred to the graveyard as a potential type, but
I'm pretty bummed out that we didn't get Tarfire in this set. There's really nothing. Nameless Inversion is close, but I think Kindred as Delirium Enabler is a little sketchy for most of the cards in this set.
Yeah, and they all cost 1,000,000 mana, so you don't really want to play them, and you don't want to just have a card in your deck to mill, or I mean, that's not really great. So,
yeah, I mean,
not super relevant to that, but it is another type potentially. But yeah, this one seems okay. It does a 2 damage to each creature and make 2 treasures or draw 2. I mean, yeah, there's a chance you would want to, create a copy of an elemental. I guess, yeah, in standard, probably you're looking at Green Shell or Sunspine Link.
Yeah, those were the big elementals that I could find in standard.
All lightning. No, I'm just kidding. But
costs 8 mana, but I'm going to talk about something else that costs 8 mana as we go on with this card. So, stranger things happen.
The thing about elementals, and all of the elementals are the one that need it the most, is that in standard you get to play with starting town 16 rainbow lands. That makes cards like this unplayable.
So only one of the rainbow kindred lands actually casts these commands.
Yeah. That's
only the
well, but
I think Eclipsed Realms from this set is worded in such a way where it casts non-creature kindred spells of the chosen creature type. Cavern and Secluded Courtyard do not work that way.
Yep.
I mean, when they cost 5 mana, they're more, quote unquote, splashable in that regard. But Green Shell has been, here and there on the fringes. It is a good thing to copy if you're in some sort of rampy Elementals Matter Kindred deck. A lot of the Elementals in this set are power statted. They have more power than toughness, the better ones, which is kind of a hurdle.
Non-bow with the turtle, yeah.
Yeah. This card being an Elemental means it is a hit off of Nissa in older formats. She is rotated out of standard. It was much harder to trigger in standard when she was there. Copying, cards like Risen Reef, or, if you have mana going, the Evoke Elementals in older formats is cool. Copying Omnath, not as cool because you legend rule, but you do draw a card, and if you're really popping off with Omnath, it resets your triggers.
Yeah, I can't imagine ever wanting to pay 5 mana for these. I guess it only costs 3 technically. I mean, you have to have 5 if you make the treasure tokens, but
yeah, I mean, I think the baseline of being an instant speed Pyroclasm that draws you 2 cards is a card that decks that are good at producing mana will, or instant speed one-sided Pyroclasm too. I think the floor is already good enough here.
Or whatever or what is it called?
Fire Magic.
It's no, not that one. It's a sorcery speed, but it draws 2, and then you discard cards if you want to. and it deals damage equal to the CMC of the cards you discarded.
Ill-timed explosion. I do think this card...
This competes with this one. It's instant speed, but 2 damage isn't going to kill. Like, 2 damage only works against the Otter decks and maybe the Cub decks if they haven't gotten to Ouroboros, but we're talking about 5 mana here, so they've gotten to Ouroboros. If not, just turn 3 hoof you. Yeah, it just seems really hard to play. I get what you're saying, but you're 1 or is it 2 mana away from Jeskai Revelation? Either way, it's just like, it seems like you can probably hold out till then and just not put this card in your deck. But I get what you're saying. It does things.
Yeah, I don't think any of these are great, and I think that I hate Kozilek's Command more than any other card ever printed, so maybe it's fine that they aren't great. This one does, in terms of things that cost 8 mana, are really hard to put together and that you aren't even allowed to do in Commander. This card does go infinite with Lutri. So you have to, when you copy a spell and can choose new targets, you do have to choose the same modes. So basically what you have to do is put this spell on the stack with copy an elemental and, whatever other mode, and then Lutri it, and then the copy copies Lutri and does the other mode, and Lutri will legend rule, but you'll just keep making copies of Lutri to keep copying this spell, and that can either...
If draw 2, do you have to have a second elemental or you lose? Unless you have something that, Maniac or something that,
you choose 2 modes. If you're choosing draw 2, I assume you're doing it when your opponent is tapped out and you are trying to kill them by targeting them with that aspect until they mill out.
Yeah, you could infinite mill out. That's true. It's target player draw. So yeah, I guess you could mill out with...
Yeah, so you're either being sure to wipe their board, which not that exciting, or you are creating infinite mana, or you are...
I guess you could draw as many cards as you...
Yeah, drawing as many cards as you want, and then
you can mill
trying to mill your opponent out. The thing about Lutri is there are multiple things about Lutri. One, as I alluded to, he is banned in Commander, so this stupid 8 mana combo doesn't even really work there. It does not work there. You are not allowed to do it. The other thing is that Lutri's companion restriction is such that you can't really build around anything. That is the point of it. And card quality in Lutri decks is generally high enough in the formats where Lutri is legal that, you'll notice if you put this card in.
You don't need to be playing 5 mana garbage.
Yeah, you don't need to be playing 5 mana garbage. You would also need to be playing a bunch more elementals to support this. So it's probably bad. If you see this card in Vintage Cube, Ashling's Command, or Power Cube, this is probably why. It's a 2-card combo that you can put together with a card that's actually good.
Yeah, in Cube it seems like a reasonable thing with Lutri. Because you're going to potentially have 5 mana out of nowhere with Black Lotus or whatever else, other mocks. So 5 mana is not such a big deal, if you've got Ancient Tomb and a bunch of mocks and whatever, The Lutri has to enter the battlefield. Oh, yeah, so it has to...
Yeah, it has to target a different elemental.
It has to be the same
when you
turn.
put
So
it
8
on
mana
the
is
stack.
still kind of crazy, but...
Yeah,
it is what it is. Yeah,
it's goofy. And this card's probably not great, but it could be a player if there's a deck that wants it.
I agree.
Here's a card that some deck will want and will probably be a player. Springleaf Drum's back in Standard.
This is my favorite card that's coming to Standard, the most important in my eyes. It's not crazy game breaking or anything, but it is a cheap artifact that lets you make more cheap artifacts happen. You have to play artifact creatures, but if you're going to do all the Pinnacle Emissary stuff, which is what I'd be most excited to do with this card, obviously you've got, Gran is an obvious target for Springleaf Drum.
If you get the 3 lessons in the graveyard, she also makes Springleaf Drum free.
So that's pretty powerful.
You have 3 lessons in your graveyard. Gran for 1 mana, Springleaf Drum for 0 mana. Get the mana back. Keep doing whatever you were doing.
Ancestral Wisdom or Ancestral Recall, yeah, for real. But it's off your Springleaf Drum on your Gran. Yeah, Lessons we know is powerful. The Merfolk thing, with the Deep Root Pilgrimage is kind of clever too, where you can tap guys for mana to do stuff.
That gives you more guys, which gives you more mana.
It gives you more mana. Yeah,
Merfolk are very tappy and convokey in this set anyway, and to some extent back in Ixalan, where cards like Deep-Root Pilgrimage and combos around that have existed.
Yeah, I do wonder if the Merfolk deck is gonna be more just like straight Lord aggro, or if it's gonna be like Agrath Soul Cauldron combo with Deep-Root Pilgrimage and that untap Merfolk. But I
think there are multiple ways to build Merfolk, but they all care about tapping things and care about mana.
You should put Deep-Root in either way, but whether or not you're going full in on the infinite combo or if you're just trying to aggro, seems good. But yeah, with the Pinnacle Emissary, I'm super excited. I kind of want to play 4-color artifacts. I probably shouldn't, but Springleaf Drum is super exciting. I kind of want to do like Pinnacle Emissary, Obsessive Pursuit, Gingerbrute nonsense, where you can like just make a bunch of fodder and sacrifice it and have a unblockable Gingerbrute that comes in and kills you. But yeah, I always like artifact decks. I've been playing mostly weapons, so I'll play this card in some amount. If I was just playing Jund, I might not play so many of them because I don't play too many creatures. But if I was more in on the Obsessive Pursuit thing with trying to attack with creatures, I think Springleaf Drum is pretty good. We still don't have like an Ornithopter or anything in Standard to really make Springleaf Drum go off, but that's okay.
Yeah. Springleaf Drum's been chased out is now basically just an Urza Saga target in Modern because Mox Opal's unbanned, but it is banned in every other format, and Artifact mana is still powerful, even when it's slightly less good than Mox Opal. So, I agree it's a good thing. Good card to pick up for those sorts of decks. Alright, we also got a bunch of pretty decent cheap interaction. Spell Snare, pretty good against the Cub decks on the draw. Requiting Hex is sort of the non-revolt half of Fatal Push, and sometimes can, if you have Blight synergies or just really need life, it has a little bit of extra upside. Nameless Inversion is reprinted. Like I said, Tarfire unfortunately was not. That's the one that I really would have wanted to get as a Delirium enabler while being cheap interaction, but Nameless Inversion's okay if you have a use for the Kindred synergy. And then this is actually somehow a new one, not a reprint. Seer is just 4 damage to creature or planeswalker at instant speed for 2 mana. So
they are hearing us. People have been complaining about, removal being kind of bad.
Or they, I don't know if they're hearing anyone because they designed so far out.
It.
Yeah, I think they meant to, Lorwyn was meant to come out last year. Same thing as the shocks and mana bases being unbalanced. They intended for Lorwyn to be sooner after Edge of Eternities and Rotation. It got pushed back because they had contractual obligations change for Spider-Man. But Spider-Man's like Foundations now. It's just a bunch of cards that you basically forgot were in Standard and will remember when they do something. So nature is healing.
I don't think that this removal is quite what we've been asking for, to be honest. But yeah, I think Requiting Hex is not good enough. People are going to have to play it because it's the only instant speed 1 mana black removal spell in the entire format. There's Stab, but...
Better than Stab.
It's better than Stab, yeah. But yeah, Spell Snare is going to go crazy. It gets Cub. It gets a lot of the removal spells out of Izzet. It gets a lot of just any version of Izzet plays a lot of 2-drops. So, it definitely helps control against that, or maybe just tempo. Maybe Spell Snare makes Hydro-Man a lot more playable because you can, play a Hydro-Man on 2 and then counter there too if you're on the play.
No, that's true. He is a land. He is a land that casts Spell Snare.
Seer is kind of irrelevant. We already have Iroh's Demonstration, which is much better, and we also, it doesn't hit Planeswalkers, I don't think. Yeah, none of
nothing in the Universes Beyond set hits a Planeswalker. But it's also sorcery speed.
This is not a lesson, though.
That's true.
Which is a serious downside.
It is worse in any deck that cares about that.
But it's certainly good to have. I'm happy about all these coming into Standard.
Vivid is the new set mechanic. Cares about the number of colors among permanents you control. Leyline of the Guild Pact is still in Standard for a while.
Another year.
And there's also this card, Tam, Mindful First Year. She is a student from Strixhaven who, through the sinister wiles of Oko, gets dropped into Lorwyn and is the POV character for the story, or is a POV character for the story. There are like 5 of them. But she's a Gorgon wizard, and each other creature you control has hexproof from each of its colors. So if you have Leyline already, just wombo combo, this is Leyline Scion, for those of you that are familiar with that from Modern. But then she also has a tap ability that target creature becomes all colors. So essentially gives it hexproof from everything. Sort of like a clunky Mother of Runes that's also an enabler for your Vivid payoffs. Bloom Tender is back in Standard. Probably the best constructed Vivid payoff is Aurora Awakener, which is a 7/7 trampling giant druid for 7 that when it enters, you reveal cards from the top of your library until you reveal X permanent cards. That does count lands, where X is the number of colors among permanents you control. Put any number of those permanent cards onto the battlefield, and then put the rest of the revealed cards on the bottom of your library in a random order. So, you've got these enablers. Tam is also sort of an enabler because you can play her in a base green deck, but she also counts as blue. There's also a sort of Wolf Willowhaven variant that maybe I'll just put on this slide as well. But it makes one of your lands a chosen color that you just choose.
Oh yeah, I saw that one.
It's
and
like
then it taps for that color as well.
Yep.
That's interesting. Yeah, and there's that that ally that if you play it in a Leyline deck becomes a 5/2 for 1. So maybe there's some kind of domain deck that's possible in this.
Yeah, I mean, also just
format,
like pretty good card in general that also protects you if you're trying to do like combo-y stuff. Use Tam proactively to enable Vivid as Voice of Victory, and you turn him sideways, he is a white permanent that has made a red permanent. They're a pretty good removal that's permanent based and produces colors. I think there could be something here. And like one of those removal spells that's permanent based is Aang's Iceberg, which is a perfectly fine thing to spin into off of Aurora Awakener because... Yep. Even if you don't need to hit something of their board, you just hit your own Aurora Awakener, you hit 5 permanents, even if some of them are lands, or even if some of them aren't, you just waterbend 3 and go again.
That is all pretty fun.
I mean, this might not work. It might be a deck that I hate because I hate ramp decks, but
you could definitely...
It might be a deck that I try.
Or something, and then you could, just win on the spot. So one of your cards is Frostcliff Siege that you're finding, yeah. So there's plenty of good. I mean, yeah, you could just play ridiculously expensive stuff, and or just like 1 or 2, and just risk it all. Look for big stuff. That's good. Yeah, I mean, a 7 mana is crazy, but obviously if you can tap your Bloom Tender for 5 on turn 3, that's a lot. I guess you could technically tap it for 6 if you're doing shenanigans with Cubs, which you are. But yeah, a cool new mechanic, I guess. It's fun to have domain without Leyline binding. Okay, up next, we're looking at a couple of elementals. We have Soulbright Seeker for 1 red. It's an elemental sorcerer 2/1. As an additional cost to this spell, behold an elemental or pay 2. And then for a red, target creature you control gains trample until the end of the turn. If this is the 3rd time this ability has resolved this turn, add 4 red. So yeah, you can just give trample to all your guys. Oh, we were just talking about Frostcliff Siege kind of makes this card, if you need 1-drops in your in your elementals deck, this is probably your only option because elementals are pretty bad at the early stages of the game. But yeah, I don't know.
It is a ability that goes mana positive from under a cauldron without tapping. Stop me if you've heard that one before.
It does cost mana.
It costs mana. You need to have 3 to convert into 4, and you need to have more creatures with counter counters on them to convert that 4 into, 4 times 4 over 3 and so on, and you don't have Proph's Eidetic Memory anymore to do that. I don't think this is just, the return of VV Cauldron, even though I am making that joke here, but
yeah,
you can also do I like this. I do like this.
Yeah, I don't think that it's terrible. You're right. It's kind of cute under the Cauldron.
Yeah, another card elemental that's sort of cute under Cauldron, and why I put it here is Flamebraider, who is a 1 and a red 2/2 that taps to add 2 mana in any combination of colors, but only to cast elemental spells or activate abilities of elemental sources. Have to be getting flashbacks to Historic, where, you get to be a Badger deck without being a Badger deck, but elementals. And it's only this dork that gets extra dorky. So,
I mean, maybe that could be something for Omnath, or, but like you said, Omnath's nerfed in
this thing does go 2 to 4 into Omnath. Oh, actually, no,
you can play the land
play this on 2, and you get a land drop in Omnath. That's not bad in Pioneer.
Plus, it just goes reefs and whatever. You can just easily, ramp with that. You're playing a bunch of elementals. You're playing Karuga or whatever. I could see it. It's cool, I think, right? I don't know. Is it great? I don't know, but it's hard to look at mana creatures and think of them as is this actually good? Now that we have the mole, but it seems pretty good. And once again, cauldronable if you're doing elemental cauldron nonsense, so that's pretty good.
Yeah, I think there could be something here with some of this stuff.
All right, up next we have some fairies and a horse serpent. So I guess let's talk about Flitterwing Nuisance first. For 1 blue, 2/2, flying fairy rogue. This creature enters with a -1/-1 counter on it. And for 2 and a blue, you can remove a counter from this creature. Whenever a creature you control deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker this turn, draw a card. So kind of like a curiosity sort of deal. But
it's a worst curiosity, but it is sort of both sides of the ball, where you can just play it as a 1/1 for 1 and creature to poke with to do curiosity things, and then you can, when the coast is clear, get a curiosity effect, draw a bunch of cards off it.
Right, and we talked about this a little bit before, but if you can repeatedly blight this thing too, right, and then you can always get the curiosity effect.
Yeah, you can't
really expensive.
It's expensive. You can't blight it for more than 1. There's another of these sort of remove a counter effects, Glenelendra Guardian, which is a 3 mana 3/4 with flash and flying. Does enter with a -1/-1 counter on it, so it's sort of really a 2/3 when it comes down. Then it just has this activated ability for 1 and a blue to remove a counter from it, counter a non-creature spell. Its controller draws a card. That's not a great thing to have stapled to your counter spell, but it's an okay thing when your counter spell is itself stapled to a card, so you're still coming out even.
The flash, you can just if you have 5 mana,
you have 5 mana. It's an Urtai, or they did something you didn't care about. You flash it in on 3, and then you just untap, and this is up for until you need it. And then the horse serpent, the other constructed level good, I think, remove counters to do thing effect. It's a 2 mana 4/5 horse serpent, but enters with 3 -1/-1 counters on it. But for 2 mana 1 blue, you can remove a counter from it to draw a card. And for 2 and a blue, 3 mana, you can remove 2 counters from it and tap and stun a creature.
You can, if you have a lot of mana, put that on itself and remove the stun counter for card draw if you're out of counters, which is silly.
You sure can do that. You can also remove other kinds of counters to use these abilities. So if you can get these under a cauldron, you can use the cauldron counter to counter spells or draw cards or whatever. You can...
Good to have the counter,
Yeah, you then need to put another counter on them if you want to do it again with cauldron. +1 and -1 counters are weird together.
Yeah, you have to get rid of the -1 first.
You can
you put on the +1 or whatever,
You can use the lore counters on Saga creatures. In the case of Esper Origins, you can use the Finality counter. Sleep Curse first fairy is a fairy from back in Eldraine that comes with a bunch of stun counters on it that you could use for this sort of thing, hypothetically. It's weird, it's a little bit messy, but...
It seems like something could be there for sure. This seems like a pretty powerful strategy, especially, like you're saying, in an Esper Origins deck where you're already surveilling and, you know, you've got the graveyard.
Sort of a graveyard deck where you just get to play some, like, decent quality, grindy cards, and then you eventually get these synergies whereby you're kind of going off and getting a lot of extra value. I don't know. It's sort of the thing that Standard's not... I guess it doesn't really have a win button like some of these sort of like synergies in Standard tend to these days, but I think it's kind of worth playing around with.
Yeah, I think this is a cool idea on these cards, and you know, nice to see Agatha Soul Cauldron back in a less oppressive way.
Yeah, this is another of those sets like Foundations that just like look at a lot of the cards and it's like, does that do anything with Soul Cauldron? And you know, I was never in favor of Cauldron getting banned when VV Cauldron was a big deck.
I think I may have said it, but it really wasn't the card I was the most worried about. I mean, as soon as they banned VV, it did nothing sense, so...
Yeah, it's just back to being a fun build-around. I think it's a fun build-around that makes speculation about this set a richer intellectual endeavor, so I'm glad it's here. Here's, like, some more of my dumb bullshit. I won't bore you with it for too long. There's a new Figure of Destiny. It's probably not very good. Figure of Fable. It starts as a Kithkin 1/1 for 1 red-green hybrid. It turns into a Scout with base power and toughness 2/3, so 2 mana 2/3 at that point, although possibly broken up. And for 3 mana from if it's a Scout, it becomes a 4/5 Soldier, and for 6 mana, if it's a Soldier, it becomes like a Hexdrink or a Mini Progenitus at its highest level. A Kithkin Avatar with base power and toughness 7/8 protection range for your opponents. So this is sort of related to an idea that I had with the 1-drop Kellen from Foundations. There are some Scouts that you can give Cauldron abilities to and sort of use those abilities to leapfrog with Cauldron, and I still don't think that deck is likely to be great, but it does have another reasonable 1-drop now. That is something.
I don't think that this card is like a horrible card in the Kithkin.
Yeah, so also if you're a Kithkin deck, you just need 1-drops.
But yeah, there are quite a few. I mean, and there is some synergy with like the Jade Light Spelunker, you know, putting stuff in your graveyard.
It's cool to make Jade Light Spelunker base power and toughness something. That was sort of my conception. I don't think this is likely to be good.
It's so expensive, yeah, to upgrade all of your creatures. It makes them huge, but so does Ouroboros. So it's tough, yeah. It's hard to break through with new, cool, fun ideas into Standard and any format, but Standard is the one you would like to be able to do such things in. But yeah, we're in tough times, but it's a cool card. I like it. Up next, we have Slumbering Walker for 3 white, 4/7 Giant Warrior.
Also, Meek Attack. They're sort of both just like cheat-in things that are small is why they're here together.
So the Slumbering, Meek Attack seems kind of fun for sure. Yeah, I guess there's quite a few ways to do silly things with that, with the 0 power creatures. But Slumbering Walker, it enters with 2 -1/-1s. It's a 4/7, so it's a 2/5. At the beginning of your end step, you may remove a counter from this creature. When you do, return target creature card with power 2 or less from your graveyard to the battlefield. And then Meek Attack is 2 in a red enchantment, 1 in a red. You may put a creature card with total power and toughness 5 or less from your hand onto the battlefield. That creature gains haste. At the beginning of your next end step, sacrifice that creature. So yeah, Meek Attack and Slumbering, they're kind of the same sort of thing, where Meek Attack is a sacrifice thing and Slumbering Walker is at your end step. You just remove a counter and put a 2 or less from your graveyard. Yeah, like having to do with power is kind of interesting because like like you have here, like Famished Worldsire, Lumra have 0 or star.
Lumra does not work with these unless you have a small enough number of lands. Stars don't. But if you meek attack in a Famished Worldsire, float however much mana you need. Meek attack in a Famished Worldsire, devour enough of your lands, and then I guess probably all but one. Then you can meek attack in the Lumra and get those with the trigger on the stack. It's kind of awkward, but if you're really trying to like wombo combo this, you can do it. But like in terms of
that is
things that you can cheat in without jumping through hoops, it's basically Worldsire and Thunderhulk.
Yeah, you may have to also be careful if you're earthbending to do it around those triggers too. But yeah, then you also have threefold Thunderhulk, which is kind of cute as well. Gruff Triplets is just outside of the
3+3 is in fact 6. Does not die to cut down, a thing that no longer matters in Standard. Can't be meek attacked in, a thing that does matter in Standard. A thing that now could matter in Standard, I guess I should say.
It still feels kind of slow, but it is very powerful.
Yeah, I mean,
because like it's like playing a stock up on turn 3, right? It's like you just give your opponent the opportunity to kill you right then and there, or at least mess you up, or even just you play a meek attack and it gets removed. Like you've just taken off your turn 3 and have nothing.
Yeah, sure. Especially in post-board games, it's kind of rough just to run it out on 3 and hope that you're going to get to use it on 4 rather than waiting until 5. But it's an interesting effect. There's some redundancy in this. Nexus of Becoming works with a lot of these same cards pretty well. And this Slumbering Walker card, which a lot of people have talked a lot of shit on, but I think is sort of okay. Sort of just a 3/6 with a reanimation spell stapled to it. Only gets back certain things. But
5 is pretty tough to remove. 5 toughness is pretty difficult to remove in this format.
Yeah,
I mean,
5 and on your end step it's 6.
So
it triggers the first turn it comes down. It has a window where it could be doomed.
Bring back the Walls of Ba Sing Se, and then it has indestructible. So.
Yeah, it's also kind of cute, I think, maybe in sort of weird Delny decks. Because if you have a Delny, when it first comes down, it just triggers twice and gets double reanimation. Or it can bring back a Delny, if that is a key part of your strategy. I don't know. I don't think you just jam this in white weenie decks as your top end. I think it's too expensive. But if you think about it as a reanimation spell with some downside and some upside, it's actually sort of interesting.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. I don't think either of these cards are insane, but, it's always fun and interesting. Okay, up next we have a cool card, Mutable Explorer, 2 and a green for a shapeshifter, changeling, obviously, 1/1. When this creature enters, create a tapped Mutavault token. So that's kind of fun. It costs 3, so once again, we're in a difficult spot.
I think that Elf...
It's definitely playable.
Mutable Explorer is not bad. It's like...
I don't think it's bad either.
There are a ton of these 3-mana ramp effects. When is this one actually better than Green Overlord or Earthbender Ascension or Heaped Harvest is still in Standard? I haven't seen that one in a while. But yeah, there are definitely others that...
Oh, there's plenty of 3-mana, yeah.
Yeah, when is it better than those? When having a changeling matters. When this thing's body itself is doing something for you and the Mutavault is potentially doing something for you.
Yeah, there's also that flicker effect that makes a changeling in this set.
Yep, there's a flicker effect that makes a changeling, which is pretty good with this. The old flicker effect that Splash Portal is kind of cute with this. It's a frog. You do draw a card if you Splash Portal this, as well as the...
Yeah, so that's decent. Yeah, blinking this guy's definitely powerful. Yeah, you could definitely play it alongside Quantum Riddler in a Splash Portal type shell.
Yeah, it's a pretty good enabler for Unholy Annex. This body, like, they don't really want to kill this 1/1, but they might have to if it's turning on Annex, and even if they do...
Iroh strays for sure, but...
Sure. But like, even if they do, the Mutavault itself is a good Annex enabler. That's been pretty proven in Pioneer. How does this go with the, like, existing, like, green Badger shells is kind of weird, because on the one hand, you really don't want to Earthbend onto a token, because the tokens don't come back.
Yeah.
But if you have a Badger, you can turn on Mutavault, and when you turn on Mutavault, it's only mana neutral with one Badger. It's mana positive to turn on a Mutavault and then tap it with two Badgers, or with a Blossoming Tortoise, a card that I have on here. It is much worse than Icetill Explorer, but used to see some play in Standard, and does make Mutavault free to activate, so that's sort of cool. We also might be getting Turtle synergies coming to Standard. There is, in fact, already a Turtle synergy. It's one of the Spider Ham types. It's too expensive to probably be a good plan to turn on Mox Jasper.
Yeah, the whole Thrumming Hive Pool thing is dead. I like, it's so dangerous to begin with, because, like, I mean, if you can just drop it for 0 at any point, then that's obviously good. But with no 1-mana changelings, it's just like, and I don't even know what they're so afraid of. Like, they clearly don't even read cards in association with Agatha's Soul Cauldron. They don't care. They'll just let anything go. But Mox Jasper, we need to make sure that this card is forever unplayable. Like, if there was a 1-mana changeling, would it be game breaking? Absolutely not.
Like you can tell that, like, Mox Jasper with bad 1-drops would not be that overpowered in Standard, because Mox Amber with good 1-drops is not that overpowered in Pioneer, and their power level is really not that different. Pioneer is more powerful. It is defined by a lot of cards that are too good for Standard, but, like, it's not really defined by Mox Amber, and Mox Amber with, like, all the legendary 1-drops that they print all the time is so much better than Mox Jasper with, like, Universal fucking Automaton.
Yeah, I mean, a Universal Automaton would be just wonderful in Standard, I think. It would make some of these really, like, it wouldn't even be a great deck. Like, the Thrumming Hive Pool deck is such a joke. Everybody has to play Artifact and Enchantment Removal because of the Standard metagame. It's just like, it doesn't do anything until the next turn. So you have to, like, protect it. You know, okay, it made my Mutable Explorer a fucking 1/1 with double strike and haste. Like, who cares?
At least if it doesn't die, which is that it might die, the Hive Pool, even in game 1, it does make the Mutavault a 2/2 double strike with haste, which...
Okay, but we're not even getting close to something that ends the game. Like, I need so much more than that. Yeah, it's just like, I don't get what they're afraid of with the no 1-mana changelings, but they're clearly terrified, or there would be one in this set. And it's clearly a Mox Jasper consideration, but I don't think it's due to playtesting. I think they're just afraid. It seems clear there would be one. I mean, it wouldn't make Unholy Annex busted. It's already hard to, like I said, it's hard on turn 3 to just play something that draws cards.
Doesn't really care about 1-mana, whether you have access to 1-mana demons or not. 2-mana demons are fine.
If there's a 2-mana demon is fine. In your, the Demon Wall is a perfectly good card.
It's honestly probably getting a glow up in this set, because it's a reasonable thing to blight on, because it's like a little oversized and it turns off Defender.
Yeah, so, yeah, I don't know. Print a 1-mana changeling in Strixhaven, you cowards. All right, on to the next stuff. Yeah, we were talking about...
So, changelings.
Changeling stuff, yeah, the Personify that makes the 1/1 shapeshifter we talked about. There's one with First Strike, if it's your turn only. Like, there's a...
Feisty Spike.
One with Flash.
This card, if Magda Brazen Outlaw were legal and Standard, I would be like, all right, buddy, you and me are going to get through to this Hobbit set together, and then we'll go our separate ways. But right now, like, a 2/1 that can attack with First Strike and trigger Magda in Standard, I'd be all about that. But
that sounds cool. I have no problem with that, but
like, in the Standard that currently exists, I am not sure I am very interested in this card. It is less embarrassing than 3-tree Mascot. Maybe that's enough if you have really good payoffs, but which you kind of do, but not good enough. The Convoke Clone Changeling is like enough pieces, like you want to keep that in your memory banks for when it comes up, this Omni Changeling
right card. Especially if you can like spew creatures that don't have haste or something and just, you know, use their value that turn to make something additional. Yeah, I could see it. That one could be playable, maybe. It's still expensive. You know, the convoking, it's a lot to convoke, but if your deck naturally spews, I could maybe even see that in allies, because there's no haste in allies, really. There is a little bit, but...
Yeah, I mean, there's just Wartime Protesters, and...
that card very much.
You might be happier with the one-of Protesters in...
I would imagine you would be.
Some spicy one in allies now than you would be, but we'll talk about that a little later. Mischievous Sneakling's all right. 2/2 flash is with
that lets you play like a controlling game. Yeah, that was what I was kind of thinking. Is that if there is a Sliver Thrumming Pool deck, that it's going to be based around like a controlling base, right? Where you can counter spells and do stuff and just flash out and
behold my dragon. It's also a sliver.
Yeah. The other thing with that deck is the Stalactite Dagger, because you can boomerang basics it over and over again, or pixie it or whatever. So like if you're in a blue-white shell, you can just like gain some value.
There is also a pixie changeling. It does cost 3 mana, so is unplayable. But
yeah, and then also like Personify, it could see some sideboard stuff in allies as well, because it protects, you know, they try and remove your Katara, you personify it, you know, you save it and get another ally, which can maybe tap
triggers your Voyager twice,
which triggers your Voyager. Yeah, so that's Personify seems playable for sure.
I think adding a 1/1 changeling to it is enough for the clunkiness of being overcasted. I also kind of like this card, Glamour Gifter. It's a 1/2 fairy wizard with flash and flying. When it enters, you choose up to one other target creature, and until the end of the turn, it's a 4/4 with all creature types. So that's sort of like a limited trick that never makes it in constructed, and then but like stapling it to a flash flyer is okay, and I don't know if it's a good way to turn on your like kindred synergies, really, because it's only until end of turn. But like I do think this card is sort of interesting.
You're playing this one, but yeah, we didn't get Spellstutter Sprite or anything, so fairy seems like a tough sell.
Chopping Changeling is good. I think just everyone gets a Rec Sage, and you know, we've had Masked Vandal in the past. If in terms of Pauper, we still only have Masked Vandal, but
we wouldn't play this anyway. But
yeah, I mean, probably not
the thing in the graveyard, but
well, like what if the thing you need to blow up with your Artifact Enchantment Hate is a Graveyard Hate card? You know,
but the only
like I don't play Masked Vandal, and right? I've played a fair bit of Pioneer Insidious Roots, won a qualifier playing with Insidious Roots last weekend, and then got wrecked in the actual qualifier. But what can you do? But like I wouldn't play Masked Vandal in that, because the things I need to kill are like Leyline of the Void and Rest in Peace, and they turn off Masked Vandal. You use Haywire Might in that deck, and so. But
Haywire Might's already better than this thing.
That's also true, unless you need Changeling.
The Changeling bad, yeah.
But you know, Rec Sage is a playable card in various formats, and
for sure. I mean,
if you're not elves, this is a Rec Sage for. If you're a non-elf kindred deck, this is a Rec Sage that you can use as well.
Yeah, I like this one.
Changeling Wayfinder is overcosted, but getting a land into hand is okay on ETB. And if you ever have somehow significant cost reduction or something, one that I'm actually sort of interested in in some places is Furdok Core. We talk about it every set. They make a Manolith with a set mechanic theme, and they keep trying to make them better, to make them limited playable. So this mana rock just has Changeling. It is a mana rock that turns on various typal synergies. At 3 mana, it's still kinda iffy. Like, for example, this casts off Temple in Historic. It does not necessarily give me any pleasure to report this, but it does. Probably doesn't make it better than a Talisman in the standard Eldrazi decks. But the Eldritch Horror, the Call of Cthulhu in the back of my mind that, like, has me waking up in cold sweats, not really, but you get the reference, is what if I play Mystic Forge Fleshraker combo? You get to play the stupid Eldrazi mana, you play like this and Faceless Agent and Universal Automaton. But since those are all dragons, you get to play Mox Jasper, which is itself a colorless spell. And what if this is good?
That is kind of funny that it turns on Mox Jasper. But yeah, I don't know. I was kind of thinking, like, could I possibly play this card in Slivers in Pauper, right? And like the 3 mana.
Don't you already have? You already have both Gemhide and Mana Weft.
No, Mana Weft's not legal.
Oh, Mana Weft's not legal in Pauper. Okay.
That is an uncommon, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, it seems rough. Yeah, you just have Gemhide, so you have some fixing. Your mana's okay with your Ash Barrens and your Gates or whatever. Your choose a lands. But like on turn 3, I really don't want to play this. If I have a Gemhide already to like enable it, I really don't want to play it. So I can't really see a way. Maybe if it costs 2 and entered tapped, it would be playable, but I don't think so. Should we look at some Merfolk?
Yeah, let's look at some of the various supported kindreds. I think Merfolk actually look quite good. Like
they have 2 mana lords. That's what you need. If you want a kindred deck to work in any format, you need 2 mana lords, and this gives it to us. So
sure, but like also like all the types have a flip legend. They have a behold creature at uncommon that is well costed. You can behold a creature of that type, and then they have a champion which works mostly but not quite like old champion. You behold a creature of that type and exile it, and then it comes back if the thing dies. And the Merfolk champion's really good. Like, it's just like, you know, a 4 mana 4/6, which is pretty good. Needing to be able to behold something makes them kind of risky as top decks. But, like, this thing, just when it enters or is tapped, it taps and stuns something. So,
yeah,
like,
you can exile a Deeproot Pilgrimage token.
Yeah, you can do that too. Like, yeah, it's only bad if you're on actual nothing. Like, even if you're exiling a real card to it, you're gonna get it back if they ever kill this thing. And like, if you play this thing and tap it to, you know, there are many good tap outlets in Standard. You know, Lumen Class Frigate is also sort of a 2 mana lord.
Yes.
And Subterranean Schooner is a pretty good card that has gone well with Merfolk in the past. There are things you can tap this to. If this is just
even
coming
play a planet, possibly, if you were so inclined.
Like, come in, tap, stun, like, that might just end the game on the spot before this thing actually has to even attack in your, like, Merfolk deck. And, like, I think the champion and the Sig are both quite good.
If you're in the combo and you don't even have a Frostcliff Siege or anything to give haste, you know, you can just tap down. If you've got 2 Merfolk, you can just keep tapping and untapping this guy. If you've got the combo, even if you don't have Pilgrimage, you can just tap and stun all their creatures infinitely, infinite stun counters. So that's another good way to
just
potentially keep in the game. Another infinite combo mana. You know, even if you don't have the full Deeproot Pilgrimage, you just have the Cauldron and the tap on tap stuff. You can, you know, he has to be not summoning sick, but it's just another thing you can do. Okay.
Combo Merfolk is a way you could go. You know, just like lords.
I don't know what the way to play is. Yeah, the lords are super good. Yeah.
Like, kill 'em Merfolk is all, and like I think in both cases this champion is quite good.
I generally don't like the whole behold like you said, there is a serious drawback to that Behold thing going on in the top deck, which is, I really wish they had printed Realmwalker into standard as well in this set.
That would have been a good one. Realmwalker would have been such a great fit for, they could have had him like walk in between Lorwyn and Shadowmoor. They already did that on like promotional materials. Why isn't Realmwalker in this set?
Realmwalker would have been a no-brainer, and it would have been so, like, that's what you need in a Kindred deck, right, is to be able to keep going. You're going up against Lessons, which draws infinite cards, or any other red-blue Riddler type deck that draws infinite cards. So, like, you're just not going to keep up to the Lesson removal with your Kindred deck unless you can play all of the cards you want off the top. So, I don't know. Can kind of do that in Allies with Hakoda. So, that has nothing to do with this set, but this set may have been best for Allies, though, to be honest. Like, the couple of little things here and there that you can play for Allies might be the most important. But Merfolk definitely seems fun. I don't know that it's wonderful, like I said, due to the whole you can't play off the top deal. But Merfolk has some infinite combos, at least, like I was saying. So there's
Sig draws some cards. It's not the same as Realmwalker, but Sig does.
I would just play Curiosity in a Merfolk deck over Sig. Sig seems fucking unplayable, but maybe that's me. Yeah, Sig can't be blocked, so Sig draws, and whenever this creature enters or transforms, you draw and discard. Yeah, I guess we can just read it. So Sig, Wander, Wine, Wisdom, 1 in a blue, 2/2, legendary Merfolk wizard, can't be blocked. When this creature enters or transforms into Sig, target creature gains, whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player or planeswalker, draw a card until end of turn. And then at the beginning of the main phase, you can pay white, just transform it into Wander, Bind, Shield, can't be blocked. Whenever this creature transforms into Wander, Bind, target creature you control gains protection from each color until your next turn, and then at the beginning of the main you can pay blue to flip it back. So Sig draws some cards, I'll give you that, but that's not enough cards when your opponent's playing Accumulate Wisdom or whatever, or Ancestral Recall, whatever. But yeah, it's tough. You need to draw a lot of cards, so I think Merfolk is probably better playing the cat at the top than Sig. Maybe at 1 Sig or something wouldn't hurt. But
yeah, I mean, you do need to fill out the like you get like eight slots worth of lords. So you have to play a lot of 1-drops. Yeah, and then you're probably interested in either frigates
2-drops
or call.
Yeah, so
maybe you are actually a little tight on 2 before you start considering a card like Sig or Cauldron of Pilgrimage. There is a lot of stuff at 2 that is competing in your Merfolk deck.
It's like it draws 1 card when it comes in, and then maybe another card, the next turn. But you can also sneak creatures in with the protection from colors, so that's cool. It's not a horrible card. I don't hate Sig. I just think it's tough to find a place for a card like that in your Merfolk deck.
So goblins, there are some goblins cards.
I like the 1-drop, the Mud Button Curse Tosser for 1. You have to behold a goblin, 2/1. Can't block. When this creature dies, destroy creature an opponent controls with power 2 or less. So it gets an Otter or a Badger Mole or a Gran or something. If you can sack it, because it obviously isn't going to die in combat. They're not going to, trade an elf and then lose their...
But the fact that they're not going to block it is, not...
Yeah, it's 2 damage and a removal spell, and it helps you on your curve. So I think that's decent.
Yeah, I like Mud Button also. Taster of Wares, I think, is like...
Taster of Wares is kind of like a Thoughtseize on a stick.
Yeah, these sort of Thoughtseize on stick cards have seen some play, and I think this one is significantly better than like Thoughtstalker Warlock or Gastal Raider. I don't remember what the speed one is called, even though I have played a little bit of it.
Can't remember the name either.
Those are like uncommons, and this is the rare version where if you're goblins and this looks at enough cards, this is really good. But even if
this
it's
also
not,
can take lands.
Yeah. that I think part of that is that if you play this without other goblins and they want, then it is just them discarding a card of their choice effectively. They're just going to give up a land. But
if they're screwed, like if that land's important, that could be. I mean,
if they stocked up looking for land 4 and you played this with a couple goblins, they are either giving you that land which they needed, or they are giving you a spell which you are going to get to cast, which is sort of this is a rare aspect of this card. So I should actually read it. When it enters, target opponent reveals X cards from their hand, where X is the number of goblins you control. You choose one of those cards. That player exiles it. If an instant or sorcery card is exiled this way, you may cast it for as long as you control this creature, and mana of any type can be spent to cast that spell. So, if you ever actually get to cast a spell off this, you are vibing. You're very happy. And even if it is just ETB, make them discard that floor. That floor is kind of bad, but not that bad. And if it's
look at your
if it's an actual Thoughtseize,
pretty good, yeah.
That's then in your goblins deck, that's pretty good.
Yeah. Then Bogart Cursecrafter also pretty good. A Death Touch 2/3 for Rakdos.
Yeah, you don't have access to as many of the turn your dead goblins into actually winning the game cards in Standard that you do in older formats. So
you're a lot happier to play this than Impact Tremors or something, because it's a body with Death Touch and
it is itself a goblin, yeah. So their champion is sort of a weird bad Yawgmoth. He pays a life and blights 2 to make your opponent blight 2. If you're better built for blighting, that's it. Boggart Mischief is also sort of cool.
He can take on 2 of these, right, himself. So if you're trying to race the Ouroboroi deck and they've spewed a bunch of lands and a bunch of animated lands and other elves and stuff, if you could do this 3 times with your other things and you don't necessarily maybe you've got a mud button and you can kill him and then you can also kill another thing and then you can blight again on him. Yeah, so it's not horrible, but it's not a great place to be having to blight all of your creatures in order just to try and level the field when they're just going to slam an Ouroboroi on their 4th mana on their turn. I don't really love it, but yeah.
There's also Boggart Mischief, which is sort of a Bastion of Remembrance for goblins with blight flavoring.
Yeah, the drain and gain. Yeah, so when
the command is pretty expensive.
Kindred, Goblin enchantment. When this enchantment enters, you may blight 1. If you do, create 2 black and red goblin creature tokens, and then whenever a goblin creature you control dies, each opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. So just more ways to close out the game, plus it makes some dudes. Good card. Yeah, I don't know. I wasn't super big on Grub. I guess we can read it real fast.
Yeah. Would actual Goblin Matron be too much for Standard? I don't think so.
No way. There's no way any creature would be too much for Standard. But honestly, Ragavan maybe, but almost any 3-cost creature would be fine from all of Magic. Almost a creature removal is bad.
The best 3-mana creature ever printed is Lurrus of the Dream Den. Would that be too much for Standard?
Yeah, probably.
Lurrus made it through Standard without getting banned there.
Yeah, Lurrus is a pretty big restriction, but you could probably play Lurrus in Lessons, and that would be pretty annoying.
You can't play Monument with Lurrus.
Right, but you could just play the...
Anyway, not to completely derail the... video that's already going pretty long, but Grub is a 2/1 menace for 3. When she enters, she does a raise dead for a goblin. So again, if this were actual Goblin Matron, or even if it was this slightly better body and transform synergy with actual Goblin Matron text, that probably would have been okay, and it probably would have been annoying for the commander players because it's just a tutor out of the command zone. But
and this set is largely especially for them. Unfortunately, like us constructed players have finally returning to a Magic set that's actual Magic cards and not from another world. And just, it's all creature stuff and it's all for Commander. None of this stuff is playable in Standard. But yeah, just the other side do. You can play,
so when she attacks as a 2/1 menace, so she's only going to get to do that once, most likely, if at all. You may blight one. If you do, you create a tapped and attacking token that's a copy of the blighted creature, except it has, at the beginning of the end step, sacrifice this token.
Yeah, so it does nothing.
Yeah, I mean, if you can copy a Taster of Wares, that's pretty good. If you can blight your Mud Button Curse Tosser, kill a thing, copy a Mud Button Curse Tosser, killing a thing might mean that your menace attacker even lives, and like then you sack it again and kill another thing. That might be good. Yeah.
The command costs 5, is unplayable.
Yeah, might play 1. Goblins is trying to be grindy, and that's why Goblins is not good in any format, but...
Yeah, sadly. Okay, let's get to Kithkin. These ones actually might stand a chance. It's kind of rough, though, to make a full-on Kithkin deck, because you only have the cards from this set and the Changelings.
So, I mean, you have Kinsbane Aspirant and the Figure of Fable. Those are your 1-drops. 8 1-drops is a little fewer than you would like in your Kindred deck, but, like, having 2 pretty good ones is a start. There is
you
one
can maybe just take
card.
Hawkhatch Formation or something, too. Is it, like, the most wonderful thing in the world? But it does disincentivize.
Hawkhatch Formation, Llanowar Elves. There are options that you can fill out
the deck. Not ideal.
Your 1-drop slot. There is actually one Kithkin card that is in Standard. Valley Rush Banner was in Foundations. Yes, Kithkin and Soldier spells you cast cost 1 less to cast. It's a 2/1 for 2. And that's pretty good.
That's pretty decent, honestly.
Yeah. I mean, I think we said at the time that, you know, both Brothers War rotating and certain world events making blue-white soldiers an incredibly distasteful thing to be playing made it not really a card at the time, but there would probably be Kithkin and Lorwyn, and this is a powerful effect.
Yeah, I mean, that definitely helps with the Kithkins, I think.
Yeah.
Like you said, it's tough. I mean, you need to play at least 10 1-drops creatures.
I mean, this Sentry card is really, really good, though.
This one's insane, yeah. So it's a 1 and a white 2/2 Kithkin Soldier, first strike, lifelink. Whenever this creature attacks, you may put a creature card with mana value X or less from your hand onto the battlefield, tapped and attacking, where X is the number of attacking creatures you control. So that's sick, yeah. I mean, like, you've just got a couple of Kithkins, you swing with this dude, he's got first strike, hard to block. He's bringing in somebody equal to the number of attacking creatures you got, which...
I mean, he's also good in just like any
deck is good.
Any generic aggro white deck.
White deck, like, yeah. I mean, insane with like Voice of Victory, right?
So he doesn't, him putting in Voice of Victory does not give you a mobilize trigger, but
you can, whenever this creature attacks,
and Voice of Victory
you can stack it though to get 2 tokens and then that's 4 creatures you can
you can use Voice of Victory to enable this thing. That is
not great. I mean, and then they can't even do anything to respond to you too. if you have that,
you can double trigger this with Delne if you really want to cook a little bit too hard. But yeah, this is a good card, good white aggro card in general.
All these 2-cost Kithkins. I mean, all these 2 power Kithkins, but there are some bigger ones as well. But
Sentry's very good and also happens to be Kithkin.
Towards Kithkin.
Bristlebane Battler is also sort of good. It's basically whatever the cat guy from Foundations is called, but with -1 counters instead of +1 counters. But he does have Ward 2. Ward 2 is pretty significant on your 2-drop. Like, you know, he's just there. He's a Wudge. He's probably going to be a 2 or 3 power trample creature on your next turn with Ward 2 and can grow to the full 6/6 reasonably quickly. I also think the Kithkin champion is maybe the best one because it has flash. So So, they point a removal spell at your Kinscare Sentry or whatever, and you flash this in, and it's like, I'll behold that thing you were killing anyway, and I'll just tuck it under here, and now if you ever kill my 4/5 Lord, I'll get it back. That seems alright. The flip one is a 3/2 that comes with a 1/1 on ETB. That's sort of fine, and the flip makes a decent amount of mana. I don't know if you have a ton to do with that mana in your Kindred deck that is just vomiting its hand, but...
Yeah, and you don't even, I don't know, I always would advocate for this, but Collected Company should be in Standard. I mean, it's just there's all these Kindred decks, all these things, and you have no way of, playing off the top of your deck, no way of getting more stuff off the top, and there's no good card draw for any of these Kindred things. So it's really tough. I don't know what you do with all that mana without a Realm Walker, without a Coco, without something to... I mean, Kithkin is definitely the most exciting. It's aggro, so it's this may be playable. That's kind of where we're at. The whole, idea of mid-range existing whatsoever is sort of a difficult concept and an impossible concept when you're talking about a creature deck. Creature deck should never be mid-range. And, there's almost no way for that to happen sustainably, in my opinion. All right, we're looking...
Jeremy plays a lot more Standard than I do, so he's very pessimistic about it.
Well, it's tough because it's just I feel like you either want to be playing 4 Pyroclasms at all times, to try and deal with the Badger Moles, or you want to be, trying to punish. Because, I've tried these decks. I tried a Humans deck, I tried a Mono Red deck, and it's just Lessons has infinite removal for your creatures. So it's just if you're fine with losing to Lessons every time, then you can play a creature deck. I would be playing a creature deck. You know me. I would be playing one if it was possible. But it isn't, so... Okay, but things could change. I mean, they could do bans. They could, there could be rotations at some point that change Standard to a different thing. If every set from here on out is this power level instead of Avatar power level, then by the time Avatar rotates, maybe we could be in a slower Standard. But yeah, okay. Are we moving to Elves now, probably?
I mean, I think we've said our piece on Kithkin.
Elves seems like another unplayable...
Elves are weird because a lot of the elf mechanics in this set are really graveyardy, and
it's just not what elves are about. And so
the cards that you actually are interested in playing in elves are the ones that go in a mostly green Llanowar elves, probably Badger Mole, because why wouldn't you? And then Elvish Archdruid type shell.
So we didn't talk about the Kithkin one, but here we have the Eclipse elf.
Yeah, there's one of these for all of the 5.
The Kithkin is the only playable one, though, because it costs 2. The rest cost 3, which makes them unplayable.
Yeah. I mean, this one, I think, might be sneaky playable in Elves and Pioneer if you were trying to build that, because you'd probably build as a Nykthos deck. And so it's just
it does give a lot
card that draws a card and has 3 pips. I probably wouldn't play it in Standard.
I wouldn't play a lot of it either in Pioneer.
No, probably not. I mean,
but yeah, in Standard, the Kithkin one is the only playable one where you get... So they all let you get...
Even that one I was mad at because it doesn't discount off the Billy Rider or the Banneret, Valley Rush. Yeah, I don't know. Just stick 2 words together and there's probably a Kithkin that is called that, but as long as one of them starts with B and one of them starts with another consonant. But yeah, the Elf Champion is another sort of okay one. It's a Beast Whisperer
off the top of your deck. Yeah, so
it's a giant body that's also a Beast Whisperer. You do have to behold up front, but you also have a lot of mana in these Elves decks to try to vomit creatures out.
Right.
There's Convoke, Heroic Intervention guy.
I mean, so is the Kindred, the Kithkin one. But yeah, it competes with Ouroboros in your green deck for a win the game slot. At least it lets you keep going. That is nice. With all of your infinite elf mana, it is good to be able to draw a bunch of cards and keep playing the game. And a 6/6 is hard to remove with red removal, at least. Not the combustion technique or whatever it is probably big enough if you haven't dealt with their graveyard. But apart from that, yeah. I like the Champion, I do. Yeah, that card actually feels like an elf card. Then there's the Heroic Intervention Convoke Elf, 4/2, 5. 2 of them are green. Flash Convoke, and then when it enters, you choose a creature type, and the other creature types of that gain hexproof and indestructible. So if you do this and they board wipe, if you do this in response to a board wipe, rather, you still lose this guy, but at least you keep your board. The command costs 1 million.
Yeah, I don't hate the command. I think it's the black card that you would actually take seriously splashing in Elves. It sort of reminds me of Completedness. You can play it as your finisher, your overrun effect in Elves, and it also has some other flexibility in its options. I don't think it's great, but I think if you're playing Elves, you're maybe interested in it.
Destroying a blocker plus the 3/3, it doesn't give trample, which sucks.
No trample's rough. And Hoof is in standard, so maybe this card's
it's just like, why wouldn't you Hoof? You can't get it off of a Nature's Rhythm too. Like that's what's best about Hoof, is that you can play 1 and you find it on your Nature's Rhythm.
Yeah, that's true. If there were a thing that like cast an elf spell from your deck for free, then you could do that with this. But
kind of sad. But yeah, I mean, it's just like 6 mana cards were hardly playable in constructed formats unless they read-win the game, and that card doesn't quite read-win the game. So up next, we have a couple elementals here. Champion of the Path, 3 in a red, 7/3 elemental sorcerer as additional cost. Behold an elemental. Whenever another elemental you control enters, it deals damage equal to its power to each opponent. So we've got some sort of direct damage stuff going on. That's kind of fun.
Yeah.
And
when this creature leaves the battlefield, translate all your on-math bullshit into maybe actually winning a game.
I mean, it also...
I don't think it's also, like, a lot of on-math decks in Modern are like Birthing Ritual, which is a way to cheat on the champion cost of this. I don't know. I don't think it's great, but...
It does play kind of funny with the Evoke elementals in Standard.
Those two, yeah. Like those.
I mean, obviously way better in older formats where you just, for free, Solitude.
That elemental deals the damage. You gain 3 life. It's Lightning Helix, oh my god, if you have this and you evoke a Solitude.
That's fair, that's fun. But yeah, this one's cool for sure.
I mean, this Sunderflock
there's some elemental ramp, and like there may be something to elementals, because you're in Standard, because the lands are all... You get a lot of lands, so...
I also kind of like this Sunderflock card. The 7 and 2 blue for a 5/5 flyer, so far so bad, but it costs X less to cast, where X is the greatest mana value among elementals you control. And when it enters, if you cast it, return all non-elemental creatures to their owner's hands. So there are a lot of like expensive elementals that sort of happen to be in play in a lot of formats. We talked about, scamming Solitude or whatever, or this doesn't have flash, so you can't just evoke Solitude and cast this with the evoke trigger on the stack.
Block for 4, that would still be a lot, yeah.
I mean, it is... Yeah, 4 is like kind of a lot, but it's a 4 mana 5/5 that also Cyclonic Rifts.
Yeah,
like that's like okay, right? That's pretty good, even by the standards of like formats where we're talking about cards like Solitude. Yeah, I think it's sort of only good in formats where elementals decks are making a lot of mana and producing like pretty big things, that pretty like high mana value bodies in play that you can use to get this down to a reasonable cost. But if you can get this down to a reasonable cost, it hits. It's big, and Cyclonic Rift is actually powerful. That is not just Commander brain talking. That is a powerful effect.
Yeah.
Especially if you put it on a 5/5 for 4 or something.
And if you have the champion, then you just did 5 damage.
That also happens.
Yeah, so...
And then you do another 7 because they don't have blockers.
Yeah. So that's pretty good. Yeah, that's quite a bit of damage. So I think that, this card, if there's an Elementals deck in Standard, it is with this, Sunderflock type thing. This card I do like a lot. Celestial Reunion, X in a green, sorcery. As an additional cost to this spell, you may choose a creature type and behold 2 creatures of that type. Search your library for a creature card with mana value X or less. Reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. If this spell's additional cost was paid and the revealed card is the chosen type, put that card onto the battlefield instead of putting it into your hand. So, in your Kindred deck, it is almost always just a, Green Sun Zenith, but
that doesn't have to get a green card.
Yeah. That really only matters for slivers and allies, maybe humans in older formats, but yeah.
I mean, I think humans in older formats, I'm not sure they play a mana base that can support this, or they would have to change to do so, but yeah.
I don't know. Isn't there a human that makes all of your creatures tap for green or any color in humans? I don't know.
Oh, yeah. The like Midnight Hunt Catilda you could play to support this in humans if you really wanted to.
I have not played that deck, so I don't know. It's something that I would play, but these decks are a lot of rares, so I don't have every Kindred deck under the sun in every format. But yeah, I like this card a lot. I think that it's definitely a player in allies. Being able to grab your Hakoda seems pretty good.
This is also the card I was talking about where you're all of a sudden happier with a one of protesters maybe in your ally deck. It can find like silver bullet cards like Rioter. You need.
I mean, a lot of decks right now are playing for Rioter main deck.
Okay, and yeah, I don't know if this is a reason that you can shave them or
maybe
not,
so,
but
yeah.
it is if you are playing 4 and you would rather play 6, well, like this card sort of does that for you.
Yeah, what it does, I think, best in both allies and slivers is it finds your mana weft / Great Divide Guide, and then all of everything. If you're not turned on to mana, then all of your creatures are mana, and you can just keep going again. It finds whatever you need, right? But like getting those mana, the ability to tap for mana is really big in these decks, especially in formats like Historic and Standard, where you only have one of those cards available to you, unlike Modern, which is not a format where you can play slivers, but if it were, there you have access to both Gemhide and Mana Weft, but you also have access to Green Sun Zenith in that format, so maybe this doesn't matter.
I think this is better than Green Suns in a slivers deck, right? Like,
the thing is
the behold cost could be rough if things are going forward.
It does get Cloud Shredder Sliver, which is the biggest deal, I think. But all of the 5 mana are green creatures, so like your Legion or whatever, those are all, or the Indestructible or the Queen, if you're playing any of those are all green. And then the mana weft is green, and there's a green Lord. So I don't know, the only thing you're really missing out on is like you can't get Flying Haste, First Strike, or yeah, those are the ones, because you could get Poisonous, because that's a green creature. You can't get the Unearth or the -1, but those aren't necessarily things you need on the battlefield all the time. Yeah. So yeah, maybe this card is comparable to Green Sun. It's not an instant, but
Green Sun is also a sorcery.
Oh, okay, yeah. I don't know why I was thinking.
I think you may be thinking of Court of Calling.
Right, yeah. So yeah, this it's a cool card. I really like it. I think it could be a player in allies and Standard for sure. All right, up next we have Bloodline Binding for 6 and 2 black. Convoke. Choose a creature type. Return all creature cards of the chosen type from your graveyard to the battlefield. So that's kind of fun. You can do goblin shenanigans with this. I think it's supposed to be an elf card in this set.
Elves and goblins are the 2 types that touch black in the 2 supported types that touch black in this set. Both are goblins are a little sacrificey. Elves are a little graveyardy in this set.
But you already have to have a ton of material on the board to get a bunch more material.
Yeah, that is sort of the thing that makes me think this is probably mostly a commandery card. You can convoke this onto the stack and then Skirk Prospector away all your goblins or sack everything. A lot of the sacrifice cards that are in Standard right now happen to be humans. Is this better than Raise the Past? It does get Sephiroth back, so maybe, but maybe not. hard to say.
Oh, maybe a humans. Yeah, I didn't even think about humans. That's possible. That's something worth thinking about.
Yeah, like,
so many cards are humans. So
Freebooter's a human, Sandbender's is human, Umbra Collar Zealot is human, Sephiroth is human.
Servandum is a human, right? Like
yes, he is.
A lot of the cards in that deck are already humans. Voice of Victory, yeah. So that could be cool. That's something that you could think about in a sort of Sephiroth-y humans type deal. And then we have Winnowing, which is another similar card. It's 4/2 white Convoke. For each player, you choose a creature that player controls. Then each player sacrifices all other creatures they control that don't share a creature type with that chosen creature they control. I kind of like this maybe for like a Slivers deck, if you're, maybe just holding them off with like your Ward 3 Sliver, Diffusion Sliver, and you want to wipe their board with all their cats and nonsense in an older format. But, talking about stuff like that's not playable. So
this is even with Convoke, 6 is a lot, and you need your opponents.
Your creatures already have mana, in Slivers. So
and like you need your opponent to at least have a few things of different types for it to be like it's not good in like Kindred Mirrors and
there's a lot of cats, so they can't only have cats in there.
Yeah, and also just like it's sort of the same problem up against something like Energy, which is just like their Goblin Bombardment deck. They're just going to throw everything at your head if you try to wipe them if you aren't pretty quick about it, and then you will die. It is just a deck that is really good at like munching up other small creature decks, and like this card doesn't really help with that. I didn't really put anything on here with this. Like the card is like a powerful enough effect that it's sort of interesting, but I have no idea what to do with it, if anything. And it might be just not anything.
It's just like, it might be playable in Allies, but at the same time, like, what deck do you need to board wipe? None. So I guess if you were playing against Looting, maybe, but that's so narrow.
I don't know, would maybe like Airbending combo be interested in this when they can combo but not kill? It seems like they...
No, their stuff is... I guess you have allies, because you'd still have to get rid of your dock, which is like the most important thing, right? Because your allies are Appa and Aang.
Right, yeah, that's true. And like usually, they often can just kill because they really only need they only really need like one untapped land to, when they go through the loop, to just like backdoor into a kill by like infinitely earthbending it. And also they can already just airbend away the opponent's board. I don't know what to do with this card. Maybe there's something, but
Commander nonsense, it's pretty funky. Mostly. Yeah. All right. Do you want to talk about this next interaction?
Yeah, so this is a set where I don't think there's a ton of Pauper stuff in this set, but Blight is sort of an interesting mechanic for Pauper because Young Wolf is legal there. There are a few other Undying cards, but Young Wolf is the best one by a lot. So I don't think there's a Blight 2 card that is really, Blight 2 Pauper card that is really exciting enough that this interaction comes up. But if you, just for the sake of, because it could be relevant somehow, somewhere, Young Wolf, if you have a Young Wolf with a +1/+1 counter on it, and you Blight 2 onto it. You put 2 -1/-1 counters on it. It does not work the way you want it to. State-based actions are such that they all happen at the same time. So the Young Wolf will die for having 0 toughness with a +1/+1 counter on it at the same time that the +1 and -1 counters would cancel each other. So you can't Blight 2 onto a Young Wolf with a 1/1 counter and have it undie. You can Blight 1 onto a Young Wolf that hasn't undied and it will undie, just like in Yawgmoth. You can Blight 1 onto a Young Wolf that has undied and remove the 1/1 counter to make it able to undie again, which is just like Yawgmoth. But you have to be aware of that. I think the best Blight card that I could find for Pauper was Burning Curiosity, which is 2 and a red. As an additional cost, you may Blight 1. If you don't pay the additional cost, you exile exile the top 2 cards of your library, and until the end of the next turn you may play them. So sort of an overcosted Ren's Resolve or Reckless Impulse. But if you pay the blight cost, it's 3 cards. An extra mana for an extra card is likely worth it, although the enabler that you have to play to set that up is, not necessarily a great fit for like a Storm deck. But like there might, like, being able to do Young Wolf and stuff and maybe draw through.
So for Burning Curiosity, it could potentially see some play in Ruby Storm, which is a current Pauper deck. It has to compete with the MH3 Glimpse. What is that, the Unwritten or something like that? Yeah, so it competes with that. But this card, instead of being till the end of turn, it's until the next turn. And so,
it's
like,
never mana, but it's always 3 cards.
It's always 3 cards. And so in Ruby Storm, you're playing like first day of class. So like you can like get 1/1 counters that you don't care about having either way. So like your cost reducers that you're playing, you could just take a 1/1 counter off one of them as you're storming. It doesn't really matter. And that could be a thing. So I think that this card may be playable in Ruby Storm, but you wouldn't be playing it alongside Young Wolf necessarily in that deck. But yeah, it does some things. It's cool. I don't know how many 3 costs. Big Score makes treasures. So that's, there's the more expensive ones have other things that they do. So I don't know if this is a player in Ruby Storm. I'm sure somebody else will try and figure that out though. So let's move on to Scarblade's Malice, which is a 1 black instant. Target creature you control gains Death Touch and Lifelink until end of turn. When that creature dies this turn, create a 2/2 black-green elf creature token. So that's kind of competing for your Toxin Analysis slot. You obviously, in Affinity, would rather have the Clue. And in most decks, you would probably rather have the Clue because drawing cards is better than a 2/2 most of the time in Pauper. So yeah, I don't think that you're really ever using this card on a Cart Clan Shaman over a Toxin Analysis, but maybe there's some situation where you'd like to keep some material around off of your Crypt Rats. So it's possible that this card sees a little bit of play. And I mean, sometimes Pauper card decks, it's just what you have. If you have this over a Toxin Analysis, maybe.
Yeah, it's all, like, 1 mana 2/2 is also pretty good. Yeah, I get you have to set it up. And like for a card like Crypt Rats that like is your board wipe that is also sort of killing you, it's not killing you if it has lifelink.
Well, lifelink is on Toxin Analysis as well, but
yeah, sure. Like that's true. It is sort of the same as Toxin Analysis in that regard, but
yeah, it's just like what's more valuable to you in this deck.
A little bit of board presence or a clue, yeah, and right.
And so last but not least, we have Gold Metal Nomad for 1 white, 1/2 Kithkin Scout. For 1 white, exile this card from your graveyard. Create a 1/1 green and white Kithkin creature token as a sorcery. So kind of Sacred Cat at home, but it doesn't have lifelink, so nowhere near as good as Sacred Cat.
Yes, most of the decks that play Sacred Cat really care about lifelink, but certainly Coggates does. Is there a white weenie deck that would be interested in playing both? I don't know.
White Weenie, I don't think so, because you're like so like involved in the whole having the inspectors, like every White Weenie deck has to run the 8 inspectors because you just need more cards to keep up with the removal.
Fair. I basically agree. Like, white is a weird color to be milling yourself that aggressively. If you were like a sacrifice deck of some sort, you'd rather play Doom Traveler, I think. But like, you need to be interested in developing and then using your graveyard as a resource to be interested in cards like Gold Meadow Nomad or Sacred Cat, and to be interested in 8 of them. I don't have a Pauper deck off the top of my head that would be, although getting to call your deck 8 cats is cool.
The funny thing about Pauper, I mean, most cats, not most cats in Magic, but all the playable cats in Pauper, everybody's always saying the cat came back because it's either Cauldron Familiar or Sacred Cat, which both come back. So I think that's funny. But do you have anything else to add about the set as a whole?
Not really. I think I'm higher on some of it than you are.
We'll sort of have to see when we actually get to play with some of these cards, but
I'm just a pessimist about this sort of stuff, and it's not great. I guess I should try and be happier about the fact that they're printing Kindred stuff at all. But it's just like I can't actually play any of it. It's just like putting it in front of my face and then being like, but remember, there are decks that are completely hateful towards this type of strategy, and every single deck is actually super hateful towards this type of strategy. So you can't really play them. And I think that's what upsets me the most about it, is that I want to like these cards, I want to play them, but it's not really possible a lot of the time because of the meta and what's actually good in Magic right now. And I just kind of wish some of these cards cost less. Like, why are they so expensive? Like, why? I don't think any card should cost 6 mana ever. But, you know, whatever. Anyway, it was fun talking about all this stuff, fun looking at some of these cards. Hopefully we get some, I don't know, I just, like, the thing about Avatar, when Avatar came out, is that, like, these cards are clearly playable. You know, like Badger Molka, like, even the cards that we weren't quite sure whether they were going to be good or not, like, the fact that Firebending Student is kept out of the game by other cards being so busted, like, that's kind of crazy, right? Like, Firebending Student should be a playable card. That's a good card, but, you know, that's the state of formats that we're in, and a little bit disheartening, but that's okay.
I can see that. Still, though, it's okay. I'll keep drinking that garbage.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still playing. I'm still here. We're still talking about it. We're still playing this game, even if it's not exactly the way we'd want it to be or whatever. But, you know, you've said it before. Largely, set design is really good and stuff. They can't really do any testing, and we just have to assume that no testing goes on any card. But they're still putting out a pretty good game. Its standard is not as horrible as it has been. There are multiple avenues you can take. You know, it's not really rock, paper, scissors. It's more like rock, scissors, you know, but both decks can beat each other, you know, like the Lessons deck can beat whatever Badger Mole shell you want to do, and the Badger Mole vice versa, as long as they're prepared for each other. But there's lots of other formats in Dire Straits too, so please like, comment, subscribe.